Chapter 1177. Through the astral teleportation array, the four arrived at the Azure Dragon Star region. Of course, arriving at the Azure Dragon Star region did not mean that they had arrived at the dragon race. The planet where the dragon race resided was called the Azure Dragon Star region. It was the core life planet of the Azure Dragon Star region and also the largest life planet. The closest astral teleportation array to the Azure Dragon Star region was 2,000 light-years away. With the speed of an Emperor-class warship, it would take about 4 hours to arrive. After 4 hours, the four finally saw the Azure Dragon Star region. There's actually such a big planet. What the four of them saw was an incomparably huge cyan planet. Compared to it, the flame star was simply a tiny speck. The Dragon King said, "The Azure Dragon Star is a level 9 life planet. The distance between the two poles is more than 1 billion miles. Oceans and lakes occupy 40% of the planet's surface and 60% of the land. A level 9 life planet was the highest level of life planets. There were not many of them in the 4 major star regions. However, with a diameter of more than 1 billion miles, it was huge. The Azure Dragon Star seemed to be in front of them, but the four flew for a long time before they arrived above it. The entire Azure Dragon Star was very green. As far as the eye could see, there was green everywhere. Green mountains, green forests, green grasslands, green valleys. However, Yi Chen found that the plants on the Azure Dragon Star were unbelievably huge. Even the grass was 10 meters or even dozens of meters tall. The trees in the forests towered into the sky. Ordinary trees that were more than 10,000 meters tall were terrifyingly thick. A single leaf on their branches could even be used to build a house. There were also some tall trees sparsely scattered on the grasslands. In addition, there were all kinds of dragon race monsters living on the Azure Dragon planet. There were Tyrannosaurus-like earth dragons, single-horned dragon snakes that had the bloodline of flood dragons, winged dragons with wings on their backs, and purebred flood dragons that lived in lakes. A primordial aura wafted over, shocking everyone. Of course, the dragon race was not entirely made up of dragon race monsters. There were many other monsters. This was a world of monsters, and there were no real humans. Roar! Roar! In a huge valley, an earth dragon was fighting with a horned dragon snake. The earth dragon was extremely strong, and its claws and teeth were sharp. The horned dragon snake was also quite strong. Its tail kept lashing out, and its body wrapped around the earth dragon. However, in the end, the earth dragon was slightly better, and it bit the horned dragon snake's body. Beside the lake, a green flood dragon suddenly jumped out and bit the back of a raging bull, dragging it into the water. As expected of the dragon race, Yi Chen felt that the environment here was very good. It had a primitive flavor and the strong preyed on the weak. Due to the powerful aura exuding from Yi Chen's group of 4 and the addition of the golden dragon aura from Xu Jing's body, these low-level dragon clan demonic beasts and other demonic beasts didn't dare to get too close. Even the winged dragon, the hegemon of the sky, chose to take a detour. In front of us is the dragon country. Dragon King pointed at the continuous city wall 1,000 li ahead. The city wall was 10,000 meters tall, and its entire body was bronze in color, as if it was made of bronze. It stretched all the way to the horizon. Yi Chen opened his soul eye to take a look and found that the length of the city wall was exactly 300 million li compared to the entire Azure Dragon Star. It was not that big. However, if it were to be placed on an ordinary life planet, it would be able to cover several planets. After Dragon King's explanation, everyone realized that the dragon country was the core of the dragon race. Only demonic beasts of the dragon race could enter. Swish! Swish! Suddenly, 2 figures appeared out of thin air in front of the 4 of them. Teleportation. They were 2/8 sky of life and death realm emperor warriors. One was wearing a golden armor, tall and sturdy, about 40 years old. The other was wearing a dark golden robe, with no facial hair on his face. He looked to be about 60 years old. Both of them had golden pupils, and the aura coming from their bodies was very similar to Xu Jing's. However, it was thousands of times more powerful. Their gazes immediately landed on Xu Jing's body. The tall and sturdy man was pleasantly surprised. It is indeed a golden dragon. There is not a trace of impurity. No, it is even purer than I imagined. It is so pure that it is dazzling. I am the descendant of the golden dragon sovereign. Naturally, I have the purest golden dragon bloodline. The old man in the dark golden robe seemed much calmer, but he couldn't help but reveal a faint smile on his face. Golden River Elder, Golden Armor Elder. Dragon King cupped his fists toward the two. Golden River Elder and Golden Armor Elder were the elders of the dragon race. Their titles were Golden River Dragon Emperor and Golden Armor Dragon Emperor. Their status was much higher than Chen Qinghai's, because they were true golden dragons. Comparing golden dragons and bronze dragons, golden dragons were naturally more prestigious. Golden River Dragon Emperor was the old man in dark golden robe. He waved his hand and said to Xu Jing, "Little girl, what is your name?" Xu Jing. Xu Jing replied, "Hihi, little girl Xu Jing, welcome to my golden dragon clan. Including you, we have 9 members." Golden dragons were very rare, and every one of them was very precious. Perhaps it was because of the golden dragon chi on his body that Xu Jing felt very close. She said sincerely, "I am very happy to contribute to the golden dragon bloodline." Good. Golden River Dragon Emperor smiled. Golden River, hurry up and bring her to the main hall. Let those guys see our new member, Golden Armor Dragon Emperor said impatiently. Everyone, follow us. This time, the two of them didn't teleport and led the way. After crossing the city wall, the 6 of them entered the country of dragons. Yi Chen discovered that other than the many tall buildings in the country of dragons, there was no difference from the outside. Yi Chen, look. Murong Qingcheng pointed at a huge arena and said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen looked over. Thousands of miles away, there was an arena that spanned thousands of miles. There were many figures sitting around the arena. They were obviously dragon race demonic beasts in human form. In the arena, 2 figures were fighting fiercely. If it was a normal sparring match, Murong Qingcheng and Yi Chen wouldn't be so surprised. However, these two seemed to have a deep grudge against each other. When they fought, they didn't show any mercy. Every move they made was a killing move. Roar. Suddenly, the two transformed. One turned into a flood dragon, and the other into a winged dragon. They continued fighting. Golden Armor Dragon Emperor saw that Yi Chen and the others were looking over and explained, "This is the country of dragons' life and death arena. When 2 sides have irreconcilable hatred, they can go up and fight. Of course, both sides must agree. You know that any race will have conflicts unless they don't have intelligence." Yi Chen nodded. Indeed, no matter which race it was, there would always be disharmony. Killing was the law of the universe. The strong preyed on the weak was the source of evolution. If they fight like this, won't they seek revenge when they get out? Yi Chen asked. Golden River Dragon Emperor said, "Of course, but when their strength is equal, they will choose to fight in the life and death arena. Our dragon race respects strength. If we can kill our opponent in the life and death arena, it will be a great honor." After flying for a while, the 6 of them arrived at a teleportation array. Golden Armor Dragon Emperor said, "Through the teleportation array, we can directly go to the square outside the Dragon Hall." Saying that, the teleportation array activated. In a flash of light, the 6 of them disappeared. Chapter 1178. Everything in the dragon race was big. Even after they transformed, their bodies were about the same size as humans. This view didn't change. This was a 10,000 li plaza, paved entirely with lapis lazuli. Perhaps lapis lazuli was not that precious to life and death kings, merely the most common material for refining supreme-grade low-grade artifacts. However, it was a bit frightening to see such a large area covered in lapis lazuli. The amount of lapis lazuli here was enough to refine hundreds of millions of supreme-grade low-grade artifacts. It was hard to imagine where the dragon race had gotten so much lapis lazuli. There was more than one teleportation array on the plaza. Every once in a while, there would be another teleportation array. Of course, there were also people leaving through teleportation arrays. Let's go. Golden River Dragon Emperor and Golden Armor Dragon Emperor led the way. After passing through a 1,000 miles long road, everyone arrived in front of a grand and majestic hall. This palace was too huge, and one couldn't even see the top. After reaching 100,000 meters, it was covered by countless clouds, and even soul power couldn't penetrate it. There were 24 li-long dragon statues in front of the palace. One was a golden dragon, and the other was a crystal dragon. The statue's eyes seemed to be able to see through one's heart, giving off an extremely intimidating feeling. Let's go in. Golden River Dragon Emperor and Golden Armor Dragon Emperor took the lead, followed by Yi Chen's group of 4. Inside the spacious palace, there were already many people waiting. Yi Chen's pupils shrank. These people were all at the 8th layer of Life and Death realm. Without Supremes, 8th layer Life and Death Heavenly Kings were the peak experts. Don't think that just because you have the strength of Battle Emperor, you can contend against 8th layer Life and Death Heavenly Kings. This only meant that your offense was powerful enough, barely reaching the boundary of Emperor realm. Battle Emperor and Battle Emperor were just terms. It didn't mean that they had the same battle strength. This was a condition. What condition? It was when the artifacts were the same, or when there was no artifact or external assistance. Yi Chen's artifact was Heavenly King grade, while 7th layer Emperor's and 8th layer Emperor's artifacts were Emperor grade and Emperor grade. How could they compare? If an ordinary Emperor warrior had the same weapon as Yi Chen, excluding teleportation, Yi Chen could indeed contend with this ordinary Emperor warrior. The only difference was that his protective energy was much weaker, but his attack power was not that different. Unfortunately, the others were not fools. Who wouldn't use an Emperor-grade treasure? Only a fool wouldn't use it. Battle the Arch was a term for the God of War pagoda in the Paradise of Gods. That was because in the God of War pagoda, the conditions were the same. The opponent would not have a more powerful artifact than you. When it came to the 7th and 8th sky, there was another saying. The 7th sky was divided into low-level Emperor, middle-level Emperor, high-level Emperor, and top-level Emperor. The 8th sky was divided into low-level Emperor, middle-level Emperor, high-level Emperor, and top-level Emperor. For example, Chen Qinghai, in Yi Chen's opinion, was at least a peak battle emperor, but among the 8 emperors, he was only a middle emperor. For example, Yi Chen was a middle emperor, but in front of a high emperor, he was only a peak emperor. All in all, battle emperors and battle emperors were a fair evaluation of strength. Unfortunately, the universe was not fair. No one would choose to use artifacts of the same level to fight you. Because he had the Eternal Night Emperor sword and the mixed elements single chi armor, Yi Chen didn't need to be afraid in front of the 7th layer emperors. He was basically one of the strongest, equivalent to a 5-star general. As his strength increased, the terms battle emperors and battle emperors were no longer suitable for Yi Chen. It was better for him to stay in the Paradise of Gods. The way to compare strength, there was half emperor and battle emperor. Haha, Golden River, Golden Armor, congratulations, your Golden Dragon bloodline has gained another member. TSK, he already has a 4th layer cultivation base. Moreover, his Golden Dragon bloodline is even purer than the two of you. Your Golden Dragon bloodline has struck gold. These 8th layer Life and Death realm heavenly kings were all elders of the Dragon clan, and they all came forward to congratulate. Golden River Dragon Emperor and Golden Armor Dragon Emperor couldn't hide the joy on their faces as they politely said, "You're too kind. Our Golden Dragon bloodline has very few members. It's extremely difficult to raise them." These words were not completely polite. The Dragon clan had 5 great dragon bloodlines: Crystal Dragon, Golden Dragon, Silver Dragon, Bronze Dragon, and Iron Armored Dragon. Among the 5 great dragon bloodlines, Crystal Dragon and Golden Dragon bloodlines were the rarest, with less than 10 members. Crystal Dragon bloodlines were even rarer, with only 7. Silver Dragon bloodlines had more than 20, Bronze Dragon bloodlines had nearly 100, and Iron Armored Dragon bloodlines had more than 400. In terms of quality, the Golden Colossal Dragons and Crystalline Colossal Dragons were naturally unparalleled. Within the same realm, they could look down on other colossal dragon bloodlines. However, in terms of quantity, they could not catch up. The Golden Colossal Dragons had 2 elders, the Crystalline Colossal Dragons had 2 elders, the Silver Colossal Dragons had 4 elders, and the Bronze Colossal Dragons had 12 elders. Chen Qinghai was only one of them. The iron-armored colossal dragons had the most with nearly 20 elders. So many experts. Murong Qingcheng had never seen an 8th-layer life and death realm heavenly king before. Now that she saw so many, she couldn't help but suck in a cold breath. Inferior beings always felt stifled in front of superior beings. Is this the core strength of the dragon clan? There were a lot of emperors present. Not only did they have the 5 great dragon bloodlines, but there were also sub-dragon bloodlines, such as Flood Dragon and some other elders with dragon bloodlines. Of course, there were certainly some who couldn't come due to other matters. Among the demonic beast clan, the dragon clan could be called the number 1 power for a reason. However, thinking of the demons, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile bitterly. Even the demonic beast clan and the human clan were far inferior to the demons. He really couldn't imagine how powerful the demons were. Perhaps, they even had a lot of supremes. Xu Jing's appearance made the other dragon bloodlines very envious. Although the Golden Dragon clan had a small population, each and every one of them could eventually grow into a powerhouse. There were more than 400 iron-armored dragon clan, but some of them didn't have much potential and would stop at the 6th layer of life and death realm for their entire lives. Iron-armored dragon geniuses like tyrannical dragon Yang Ting were few and far between. Why isn't Great Elder here yet? Perhaps he's been delayed. After waiting for a while, everyone started discussing spiritedly. The patriarch of the dragon clan was the sovereign of the dragon clan. Normally, he would not come out, so everything in the dragon clan was handed over to the Great Elder of the dragon clan. The Great Elder was the strongest among the elders of the dragon clan. He had been the Great Elder of the dragon clan for tens of thousands of years. He was the Crystal Dragon Emperor of the giant crystal dragons. Buzz. Right at this moment, a tall figure appeared beside the main seat of the palace. A faint 7-colored radiance spread out like a dream. The Great Elder of the Dragon Clan, Crystal Dragon Emperor, had appeared. Chapter 1179. Head Elder. The dragon race worshipped power. Be it status or power, the Sky Crystal Dragon Emperor was worthy of everyone's respect. At this moment, even the Golden River Dragon Emperor and the Golden Armor Dragon Emperor cupped their fists to show their respect. The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's eyes had 7 colors, giving people an unfathomable and noble feeling. He nodded, glanced around, and finally stopped at Xu Jing. Good seed. Indeed, the purest Golden Dragon bloodline. It was hard to fake a Golden Dragon bloodline, and even harder to fake a Golden Dragon bloodline. Xu Jing was a Golden Dragon, and she had already received the approval of the Sky Crystal Dragon Emperor. Do you know about your childhood memories? The Sky Crystal Dragon Emperor had heard about Xu Jing from the Dragon King, but he still couldn't help but ask. He really wanted to know where the missing dragon sovereign had gone. The addition of a sovereign would have a huge impact on the dragon race. No matter how many king-level warriors there were, as long as they were not sovereigns, it would be useless. Sovereigns were the most intimidating existences. After thinking about it carefully, Xu Jing shook her head. She indeed did not know about the memories before she was 10 years old. What a pity. The Sky Crystal Dragon Emperor sighed. This is the Golden Dragon token of your Golden Dragon bloodline. Drop your blood and refine it. From now on, you will be a member of my dragon race. As he spoke, he took out a token that seemed to be made of gold from his storage ring. There was a lifelike golden dragon carved on it. Normally, when demonic beasts with the sub-dragon bloodline joined the dragon race, they would be given a token by the other elders in charge. However, the dragon bloodline was different. The dragon bloodline was very rare, and it had to be personally approved by the Great Elder, who would then give the token. Furthermore, the dragon token was different from the other tokens. It was a Heavenly King tier artifact, and it had a special refining method, making it impossible to forge. With the Golden Dragon token, Xu Jing could be considered a true Golden Dragon of the dragon race, otherwise she would not have been approved. Thank you, Head Elder. After receiving the Golden Dragon medallion, Xu Jing dripped a drop of golden blood onto it. Wang. The golden dragon carving on the medallion seemed to have come to life, and it began to swim about on the medallion while a series of dragon roars rang out. In the next instant, the Golden Dragon medallion transformed into a streak of golden light that branded itself onto Xu Jing's wrist. After bestowing the Golden Dragon Medallion, the Heavenly Crystal Dragon Emperor smiled and said, "Golden River, Golden Armor, congratulations. You have one more member. Why aren't we crystal dragons so lucky?" Dragons could only give birth to one child in their lifetime, and no one knew when they would have another child. It was possible that they would not have a child until they died. This was the rule of the universe, a fate that could not be changed. For countless years, the number of crystal dragons and golden dragons had been in the single digits. It was no wonder that the crystalline dragon emperor was envious. "Hee, there's no point in being envious," Golden Armored Dragon Emperor said proudly. Moving his gaze from the Golden River Dragon Emperor and the Golden Armor Dragon Emperor to Murong Qingcheng, Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor couldn't help but exclaim, "Dark Witch bloodline, how strange." "What? Dark Witch bloodline?" In the hall, the elders were shocked when they heard the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's words. They could tell that Murong Qingcheng was a demon and cultivated demonic power, but they could not tell that Murong Qingcheng had the Dark Witch bloodline. One had to know that the Dark Witch bloodline was even rarer than the Golden Dragons and Crystal Dragons. It was a bloodline bestowed by the heavens, and it was basically impossible to inherit the bloodline. In the entire demons, the number of Dark Witch bloodlines and Dark Goddess bloodlines could be counted on one hand. If the Golden Dragon bloodline was the top bloodline, then the Dark Witch bloodline and Dark Goddess bloodline were the top bloodlines. Haha, if the demons knew that a Dark Witch bloodline had appeared among the demons, I wonder what expression they would have. It must be very unsightly. One of the elders among the bronze dragons laughed. "An anomaly. She is definitely an anomaly. Although she is not a real Dark Witch, she is very talented. Once she grows up, she will probably be half a Dark Witch." Many elders of the Dragon Clan commented. "Work hard. I want to see how strong you will be when you become a powerhouse." The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor smiled at Murong Qingcheng. Murong Qingcheng replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "I will not disappoint you." Nodding, the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor shifted his gaze again. Although Murong Qingcheng was talented and had the Dark Witch bloodline, as long as she was not a real Dark Witch, he would only be surprised and not shocked. In comparison, the Golden Dragons were much better. Finally, his gaze fell on Yi Chen. The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor was as curious about Yi Chen as he was about Xu Jing. He was curious about Xu Jing because of her origin and the missing Dragon Clan sovereign. He was curious about Yi Chen because of Yi Chen's strength. He had already learned from Chen Qinghai that Yi Chen's strength was not inferior to Shado's. In fact, Shadao was much weaker when it came to weapons of the same grade. In addition, Yi Chen was the only 4-star purple gold rank commander of the human clan. Of course, this was only on the surface. In fact, Yi Chen's strength had surpassed 4-star purple gold rank commanders. If there was a 6-star purple gold rank commander, Yi Chen would be one. He was an incomparably dazzling genius with the potential of a sovereign. Any talent or bloodline seemed to be inferior to him. Suddenly, the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor pointed a finger at Yi Chen. The finger, which was emitting a 7-colored luster, seemed slow but was actually fast. It rapidly bombarded towards Yi Chen and grew bigger and bigger. No one had expected that the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor would suddenly attack. The Golden River Dragon Emperor and the Golden Armor Dragon Emperor were ready to stop it. After all, Yi Chen came with Xu Jing. If he was killed, it would be hard to explain to Xu Jing. Moreover, killing someone needed a reason. Just as the two of them were about to attack, the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's voice sounded, "I'm just testing you. Don't worry." Testing you? The Golden River Dragon Emperor and the Golden Armor Dragon Emperor did not attack in the end. The Dragon King, Xu Jing, and Murong Qingcheng were all shocked. However, they could not move. An invisible force had bound them. They could only watch and not move. They were extremely anxious. Only Yi Chen could see that the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor did not have any killing intent. Of course, he wasn't sure. It was not necessary to have killing intent in order to kill someone. Sometimes, a superior would kill someone with a mere thought. There was no time to take out the Eternal Night Emperor sword. Yi Chen pulled out the silver serpent sword and used his most powerful momentary brilliance. Puff, puff, puff. Layers of explosions rang out. The silver serpent sword seemed to have broken through layers of shackles and stabbed towards the seven-colored finger. This was the pressure of the finger. Ordinary king tears would collapse under the pressure of this finger. Ding! The seven-colored finger and the tip of the sword clashed, causing brilliant sparks to burst out. However, before the sparks could disperse, they suddenly disappeared. It turned out that the heavenly crystal dragon emperor had attacked once again. This time, it was even faster and more powerful than the previous one. Even Yi Chen couldn't react in time, and could only rely on his powerful instincts. Ding! The momentary brilliance was used to the limit. It merged with the void and blocked the celestial crystal dragon emperor's finger again. Good. The celestial crystal dragon emperor laughed loudly and attacked a third time. Chapter 1180. The third finger of the celestial dragon emperor had already exceeded the limit of Yi Chen's combat power. Unless Yi Chen replaced the silver snake sword with the eternal night emperor sword, he would not be able to block this finger. However, there was no time to do so. Once he did, he would be hit. Although Yi Chen could see that the celestial dragon emperor was testing him, he did not want to admit defeat. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen once again used his sword to meet the seven-colored finger. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. The silver snake sword was bent, and Yi Chen was sent flying. His right arm was numb, and he could barely hold the silver snake sword. Not bad, not bad. The fourth finger of the celestial dragon emperor followed closely. He wanted to see how many of his fingers Yi Chen could block. With each finger, he would increase his strength until Yi Chen could no longer withstand it. The fourth exchange. The fifth exchange. The seventh exchange. Puff. Yi Chen spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was pale. He could not block it anymore. The heavenly crystal dragon emperor had a good grasp on the attacking power. It would not be too strong, but not too weak either. Each time, it would only increase by 1%. It was like adding a straw to a camel's body. If it were under a situation where he was not carrying any weight, he could still handle it. However, when he was at his limit, he felt like he had to put in 10 times the effort to block every finger attack. It was even more difficult than fighting with someone 10 times more powerful than him. The eighth exchange. The ninth exchange. Yi Chen's body began to feel weak. The finger power of the celestial dragon emperor was very strange. The mixed elements unity chi could not block it at all. It could always easily penetrate through. Otherwise, Yi Chen would not be so embarrassed. The 10th finger. The 10th finger of the celestial dragon emperor quickly attacked. Distance was completely meaningless in front of him. Even though Yi Chen had retreated to the entrance of the hall, he could not dodge. I have to block it even if I can't. Yi Chen would not dodge, nor would he retreat. In his eyes, this was a battle without any killing intent. If he could not block it with his current strength, then he would make another breakthrough. Roar! As soon as he swung his sword, the humming of the sword filled the air. The pressure from the seven-colored finger was slightly reduced. With a puff, the seven-colored finger and the tip of the sword collided. In the next moment, Yi Chen was forced to take 3 steps back. It didn't seem to be very difficult. At least, it was much easier than blocking the third finger. The Heaven Crystal Dragon Emperor stopped attacking. A trace of surprise appeared on his face as he said, as expected of a peerless genius. He actually managed to raise his sword domain from the middle stage of the 5th layer to the peak of the 5th layer despite the boundless pressure. It turned out that Yi Chen had used the pressure brought by the Heavenly Crystal Dragon Emperor to temper his comprehension of the sword Tao that he had yet to digest while exploring the sword world. His sword domain had improved further, rising from the mid-stage of the 5th level to the peak of the 5th level. There was still the late stage of the 5th level in between. The improvement of his sword domain allowed Yi Chen's control over his surroundings to increase greatly, and it indirectly increased his offensive strength. Otherwise, he would have definitely been blasted out of the hall. This is all thanks to Great Elder. Yi Chen cupped his fists and said. The Heaven Crystal Dragon Emperor smiled bitterly. I didn't mean to help you break through. I was just testing you. What a genius. He actually used the Great Elder's pressure to break through. Although the physique and talent of the human race is much weaker than our dragon race, they are the ones who create the most miracles. Otherwise, our demon race wouldn't be willing to be the human race's lackeys. The geniuses of the human race are like the stars in the sky. Our demon race can never compare. In the hall, all the dragon race elders exclaimed in admiration. The human race was a complicated race. They were the weakest, but they were also the strongest. The demon race was so powerful that they were justifiably the strongest race in the universe. Even powerful races like the Yaksha race and the evil spirit race did not dare to compete with them. They were willing to be second or third in rank. However, in countless battles, although the human race had been defeated again and again, they had never been completely defeated. That was because they would always produce amazing and peerless experts at critical moments. There were even times in the past when the demon race had suffered great losses and the human race had gained a lot of the upper hand. If the demons were the number one race in the universe, then the human race was the race that created the most miracles in the universe. Of course, they were also the most complicated race. The strength that Yi Chen displayed was still far from the supreme being level, but at least he had the potential of a supreme being. This made many dragon race elders extremely envious. The invisible force that bound the Dragon King, Xu Jing, and Murong Qingcheng dissipated. The three heaved a sigh of relief. It turned out that it was just a test. They had been too paranoid. As a member of the dragon race, you can choose a place in the country of dragons that is no larger than 1,000,000 miles as your territory. Without your permission, no one else can set foot there. The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor said to the Golden River Dragon Emperor and the Golden Armor Dragon Emperor, "You two help me with the matter of choosing a territory. You are dismissed." After saying that, the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's figure flashed and disappeared from the hall. The Golden Armor Dragon Emperor smiled at Xu Jing and said, "Choosing a territory is very simple. I have the star shrinking device of the Azure Dragon planet. You can choose any one. Those marked in red are owned. The rest are ownerless." Every planet with life had a star shrinking device, and the Azure Dragon planet was no exception. "Okay, let me take a look." After a while, Xu Jing said, This place is not bad. It has everything, including a big lake." The Golden Armor Dragon Emperor nodded. After leaving the hall, several figures suddenly came up to them. "Is this the new big sister? I'm Xiao Jin, also a golden dragon." The one who spoke was a child about 7 or 8 years old. He raised his head and looked at Xu Jing curiously with his golden eyes. Xu Jing patted his little face and picked him up. "Xiao Jin, bring big sister Xu and her friend to this place. You should know the way, right?" The Golden Armor Dragon Emperor showed the marked location on the star shrinking device to Xiao Jin. "I do. Come, I'll bring you there." Xiao Jin jumped down from Xu Jing's back. Roar. A dragon's roar sounded, and golden light shone everywhere. Xiao Jin turned into a golden dragon that was more than 10 miles long. "Go on. Xiao Jin will bring you to the destination." The 4 people from the Golden Armor Dragon dynasty said. When the 4 of them stood on Xiao Jin's back, Xiao Jin soared into the sky and flew into the distance. "You'll be living here from now on. There's still a lot of time before the divine trial field opens, enough for you to learn the sacred dragon fist to rank 5. Yi Chen said to Xu Jing, who was beside him, as astral winds blew against their faces. "I can't compare to little sister Jing. I don't know if I can make it to the top 10 of the Heavenly King list next year." Murong Qingcheng wasn't very confident in herself. There were too many geniuses in the 4 major galaxies, and there were also other geniuses from Elysium, such as Dugu Ju. Xu Jing said, "I'll help you ask if the dragon race has any high-level demons martial arts. If there are, I'll help you get some." Demons were proficient in the profound of darkness, and the demons' martial arts were mainly based on the profound of darkness. Using magic power to perform the martial arts of the demons could stimulate the power to the limit. A complete martial art of the demons could at least give Murong Qingcheng some inspiration. Chapter 1181. Xiao Jin's flying speed was not slow. 2 hours later, they arrived at their destination. Looking down from above, everyone scanned Shu Jing's territory with their soul power. This land with a radius of 1,000,000 miles could be described as magnificent. There were endless mountains, vast forests, unfathomably deep lakes, crisscrossing rivers, hilly areas, basins, plains, and plateaus. In short, except for deserts, this place had all kinds of environments. Moreover, it was exceptionally pleasing to the eye, far better than any other habitable planet. It wasn't that there was no life in the territory. There were many life forms here. There were demonic beasts that liked to live deep in the mountains, there were demonic beasts that liked to live deep in the forests, there were incomparably large water beasts in the lakes, and there were also water monsters that stirred up trouble in the rivers. These demonic beasts were temporarily unable to take human form, so their intelligence was limited. Their existence added a thick primitive flavor to the land. Good place, worthy of being the Azure Dragon Star. Yi Chen praised. The dragon race worshipped freedom, so he did not expect their territory to be so vast and magnificent. Compared to this place, the Flame Star was like a remote mountain. Tens of millions of li behind the dragon race's main hall, there was a towering mountain that pierced through the clouds. The mountain was surrounded by layers upon layers of white clouds. Counting carefully, there were a total of 9 layers, and each layer was separated by over 1,000,000 meters. The peak of the mountain was above the 9 layers of clouds, meaning the 9 heavens. Such a tall mountain should have been visible from a higher altitude, but the peak seemed to have disappeared, unable to be seen at all. There was only chaos. Surrounding them was a boundless sea of clouds. Within the sea of clouds, there were floating boulders. Palaces were built on the boulders, and there were also small mountains. Waterfalls poured down from the peaks of the mountains, rumbling loudly. Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor appeared in front of a palace, clasping his hands and bowing, "Patriarch, please enter." A deep and mighty voice came out. Hearing this, Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor walked into the palace. "The little girl from the Golden Dragon bloodline is here." From the depths of the palace, a middle-aged man in his 50s walked out. He was wearing a bronze crown and luxurious clothes. His bronze eyes exuded a strange charm and influence. Even Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor did not dare to look at him for too long. Yes, there is also a peerless human genius and a demonic genius. "Oh, let me see." The middle-aged man's bronze eyes shone brightly, piercing through the void. "As expected, it's his descendant. After so many years, I still can't find a way to save you. You're really stupid. For a woman, you're willing to abandon your own clan, your own descendants. Sigh, the will of a supreme being cannot be shaken. Perhaps if it were me, I would make the same choice as you," the muscular middle-aged man murmured. The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor didn't dare to interrupt. "Hey! The bloodline of the Dark Witch. Not a bad talent. When they grow up, they will probably be equivalent to half a Dark Witch. This brat is lucky. Or perhaps, these 2 little girls are lucky." The majestic middle-aged man smiled and said to Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor, "What is this kid's name?" "Yi Chen." "Yi Chen, I'll remember you. Perhaps this young man will be the key to saving him. As for whether or not this will happen, we can only leave it to fate." The bronze light in his eyes dimmed and the muscular middle-aged man looked away. This child can only be befriended, not hostile. Yes. The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor was surprised. He didn't expect the Patriarch to think so highly of this child. It seemed that this child was really extraordinary. However, after thinking about it, it didn't matter. The supremes of each clan all had their own people that they thought highly of. With the vision of a supreme being, it was naturally very terrifying. In terms of vision, only a supreme could surpass a supreme being. A vast territory naturally needed a lot of buildings. It was impossible to use the sky as a blanket and the ground as a seat. Of course, this didn't need Shu Jing to worry about. On the second day, a large number of Dragon Clan construction workers came to build various palaces and manors. When the palaces and manors were finished, the Dragon Emperor would also come to arrange formations and restrictions. This was the treatment of giant dragons, and other sub-dragon bloodlines couldn't enjoy it. After Xu Jing's inquiry, she discovered that the Dragon Clan had collected many demons martial arts, from low to high. These demons martial arts were not very important to the Dragon Clan, so Murong Qingcheng was allowed to go in and choose a few demons martial arts. As for Xu Jing, she went to the Dragon Clan's martial arts tower. And Yi Chen was interested in the Dragon Clan's shadow recording pagoda. The shadow recording pagoda stored a large number of shadow recording crystals, and it had a total of 7 floors. Arriving at the first floor, Yi Chen's gaze swept across the shadow recording crystals on the bookshelf, and his eyes fell on one shadow recording crystal. There was a label next to the shadow recording crystal, and on it was written Iron Spear Dragon Emperor vs. Ghostface Emperor, a battle between emperors. Yi Chen immediately approached it, picked up the shadow recording crystal, and immediately injected true essence into it. Buzz! A beam of light shot out, and an image condensed in the void. In the boundless starry sky, the dozen or so people stood at random places, far away from each other. Even further away from the dozen or so people, there were 2 people facing each other. One of them wore black battle armor and held a black spear in his hand. The other person had a pair of wings on his back and also held a spear in his hand. However, he wore a ghost mask on his face. Interesting, it's the Dragon Emperor against the Yaksha Emperor. Yi Chen could tell at a glance that the one holding the spear was the Dragon Clan's Iron Spear Dragon Emperor, and the one holding the spear was the Yaksha Emperor's Ghostface Emperor. Both of their auras were very obvious. There was no sound in the entire battle, only images, and the images occasionally fluctuated. The Iron Spear Dragon Emperor's spear art was very powerful, and he thrust his spear again and again without any gap between them. In comparison, the Ghostface Emperor's spear art was not just a little bit weaker. However, as a Yaksha Emperor, the Ghostface Emperor's pair of wings on his back allowed him to move like a ghost. Sometimes he would teleport to dodge attacks, sometimes he would dive at high speed, turn into a beam of light, and sometimes he would circle around the Iron Spear Dragon Emperor. All in all, the Ghostface Emperor's agility was very shocking, and he relied on it to fight evenly with the Iron Spear Dragon Emperor. In the end, it was a draw, and no one could do anything to the other. This is a battle between elementary emperors. It was very difficult for elementary emperors to kill each other, and generally, the gap between them would not be too big. The first floor was a battle between elementary emperors, and the second floor was a battle between intermediate emperors. Occasionally, there would be shadow recording crystals of intermediate emperors killing elementary emperors. On the third floor, Yi Chen became especially serious. In the third floor's shadow recording crystal, the basic strength of the high-level emperors was far higher than Yi Chen's. There were countless rank 4 martial arts, and when combined with emperor-level weapons, their destructive power was astonishing. The fourth floor was even more amazing. The battle between peak-level emperors was simply earth-shattering. Is this a battle between the golden armored dragon emperor? Suddenly, Yi Chen found a shadow recording crystal, and there was actually a Dragon Clan elder, the Golden Armored Dragon Emperor. The opponent of the Golden Armored Dragon Emperor was not a peak-level emperor, but a high-level emperor, and his strength was much weaker than the Golden Armored Dragon Emperor. A dazzling golden light burst out, and the opponent was beaten to death by the Golden Armored Dragon Emperor. I didn't expect the Golden Armored Dragon Emperor to be a peak-level emperor. The sacred dragon fist that the Golden Armored Dragon Emperor used at the end was extremely powerful. It was unknown what rank it was, but it was estimated to be at least rank 7. Chapter 1182. The sacred dragon fist had a total of 9 ranks, and each rank was stronger than the previous. It was known as the fist art closest to a supreme martial art. It was also one of the inherited martial arts of the dragon race, which had existed since ancient times. The reason why the Celestial Dragon Emperor could become the Great Elder was related to his comprehension of the rank 9 Sacred Dragon Fist. The Golden Armored Dragon Emperor was a golden dragon after all, so the Sacred Dragon Fist could not be lower than rank 7. It was very likely that it had surpassed rank 7 and reached rank 8. High-level dragons cultivated the Sacred Dragon Fist far faster than other dragons. Right. If the Golden Armored Dragon Emperor is a top emperor, then what level is the Celestial Dragon Emperor? Supremacy is impossible. Is there another level above the top emperor? Yi Chen was a little curious about the strength of the celestial dragon emperor. After searching through the fourth floor, Yi Chen did not find any recording crystal of the celestial dragon emperor, but he did find one of the golden river dragon emperor. The realm of the sacred dragon fist seemed to be lower than the golden armored dragon emperor, but the martial art created by the golden river dragon emperor was very powerful. The perfect fusion of the four profounds of metal, wood, water, and thunder was clearly an extreme rank 4 martial art. So powerful. In the image, the golden river dragon emperor shot out a palm, and a golden river surged violently. The enemy on the opposite side was so frightened that he could not even teleport and was annihilated in an instant. I am afraid it is much stronger than the golden armored dragon emperor. It is indeed an extreme rank 4 martial art. Yi Chen was greatly touched. This was the first time he had seen a rank 4 martial art. It was simply too powerful. The most terrifying thing was that the palm had frozen the space, and the enemy could not teleport even if they wanted to. If a rank 4 martial art is so powerful, then what about a rank 5 martial art, or even a supreme martial art? Supreme martial arts were a little special. They did not pursue revolutions, but perfection. For example, the fusion of yin and yang profounds, the fusion of 5 elements profounds, or the fusion of life and death profounds were all perfect. Therefore, it was a supreme martial art that could not be surpassed. I am still far from it. Yi Chen continued to walk to the 5th floor. Sure enough, there was another level above the top emperor and below the supremacy, which was the quasi-supremacy. And the celestial dragon emperor's strength was the quasi-supremacy. The strength of a quasi-venerable was basically invincible among the 8th heaven sovereign realm experts. Under the supremacy stage, only a quasi-venerable could contend with a quasi-venerable. Top sovereign realm experts couldn't even catch up to them. Yi Chen did not deliberately look for the battle of the celestial crystal dragon emperor. Instead, he randomly picked one up and looked at it. After all, there were not many image recording crystals on the 5th floor. There were only a dozen or even a few on each shelf, and they were all categorized. Yes, it's the battle of the green-robed emperor. Yi Chen's gaze was fixed on a recording crystal. The label beside the recording crystal read, Green-clothed Emperor versus Flame Demon Emperor. Yi Chen had heard of the green-robed emperor's name before. The Firebird Empress had said that the person she liked was the green-robed emperor. Originally, Yi Chen had thought that the green-robed emperor was an ordinary 8th-stage sky sovereign. He hadn't expected him to be a quasi-sovereign. The scene changed, and the battle between the green-clothed emperor and the Flame Demon Emperor began. The Flame Demon Emperor was the emperor of the demons. The martial arts of the demons he displayed contained the profoundness of darkness, fire, and wind. Although it was 3 profoundness, one should not forget that the profoundness of darkness was much stronger than the ordinary profoundness. When the 3 profoundness were combined, it was equivalent to an ultimate 4th revolution martial art, or even the threshold of a 5th revolution martial art. Unfortunately, the green-clothed emperor was stronger than him. The martial arts of the green-clothed emperor contained 5 profoundness, namely the profoundness of metal, wood, water, fire, and wind. Among them, the profoundness of water and fire were opposites. 7 fingers. Just 7 fingers. The Flame Demon Emperor collapsed. His entire body revolved and was annihilated with a single point as the center. In the end, he disappeared without a trace, but the treasured weapon on his body was left behind. The surrounding people were very surprised, and they were all talking about something. They probably didn't expect the green-clothed emperor to be so strong, or they didn't expect the green-clothed emperor to create a 5th revolution martial art. It doesn't seem difficult for a quasi-sovereign to kill a peak sovereign realm expert. The Flame Demon Emperor was not a quasi-sovereign, but a peak sovereign realm expert. His strength was about the same as the Golden River Dragon Emperor. Of course, this also reflected the terror of the green-clothed emperor. One must know that both of them were wearing emperor-class armors. With the strength of the Flame Demon Emperor, his armor should be a high-class Emperor Class 1. Even wearing a high-class Emperor Class armor, he was still killed by the green-clothed emperor. One could imagine how big the gap in battle power between the two was. The green-clothed emperor turned around and floated away. After a while, Yi Chen found the recording crystal of the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's battle. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen poured his Jin Yuan into the crystal. A quasi-sovereign against a supreme. The opponent of the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor was also a quasi-sovereign, the Green Spirit Emperor of the Greenman race. The Green Spirit Emperor was very arrogant. Although he couldn't hear his voice, Yi Chen could guess from his expression that the other party was provoking the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor. It was no wonder. Both of them were quasi-sovereigns, and it was very difficult to kill the other party. Therefore, the Green Spirit Emperor seemed unscrupulous. The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor had a sneer on his face, and his lips moved slightly. Idiot. According to the shape of the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's lips, Yi Chen could easily guess the content of the Green Spirit Emperor's words. The Green Spirit Emperor was enraged, and he immediately launched a fierce attack. His huge fist flashed with a green light, filling up the entire starry sky. Even the space was torn into black cracks. Suddenly, the image started to distort. One moment, it returned to the past, and the next moment, it returned to the future. Time and space distortion. Yi Chen suddenly squinted his eyes. Time and space distortion did not necessarily require one to be proficient in the space profound and time profound. Space and time were like a never-ending river. Although a human could not reverse the flow of the river, it was still possible to create some small waves in the river. Of course, this required an extremely terrifying power and destructive power. Being proficient in the space profound and time profound was even more powerful than this. One could follow the flow of the river and create a whirlpool. It was possible to return to the past and kill the opponent. It was more controllable, but the degree of terror was thousands of times greater. It was simply a power close to that of a god. However, if one could truly master this ability, they would already be one of the most powerful supreme beings. A battle between supreme beings was unimaginable to ordinary people. This kind of method might only be able to injure the opponent, but it was unrealistic to use it to kill the opponent. In the image, a dreamy colorful light suddenly burst forth. This colorful light penetrated the distorted space and time, like a colorful sun. At the center of this colorful sun, the Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's eyes were sharp as he punched out. In the next moment, a seven-colored dragon-shaped energy rushed out. The distorted space and time could not affect it at all. The Green Spirit Emperor spat out a mouthful of blood, and his whole body was sent flying. Layers of colorful light covered his body, which greatly weakened the Green Spirit Emperor's aura. The Green Spirit Emperor's face was full of disbelief as he muttered something. The Celestial Crystal Dragon Emperor's expression was cold. He walked towards his opponent step by step, and with every step he took, the void would fluctuate. After a few more exchanges, the Green Spirit Emperor was beaten into a very sorry state. His aura became weaker and weaker. In the end, the Green Spirit Emperor escaped, spraying green blood along the way. Powerful, powerful. Is this the 9th stage Sacred Dragon Fist? He has already reached the limit of his power. Even the distorted space and time could not affect him. Although the distorted space and time was created by a quasi-venerable and not a supreme being, it was still possible. Chapter 1183. The rank 9 Sacred Dragon Fist could be said to be the pinnacle of strength. A single punch could distort time and space, or it could be said that it was distorting time and space itself, creating bigger waves in the river of time and space. A small wave was destined to be engulfed by a big wave. The Green Spirit Emperor was not weak. No matter what, he was still a quasi-venerable. Unfortunately, he encountered the stronger Heavenly Crystal Dragon Emperor and the terrifying 9th Order Sacred Dragon Fist. With the Heavenly Crystal Dragon Emperor's Crystal Dragon physique and the power of the 9th Order Sacred Dragon Fist, a crushing defeat was inevitable. It would be good enough if he could leave alive. With a flash of inspiration, Yi Chen suddenly activated the image recording crystal again and carefully watched the battle between the Heavenly Crystal Dragon Emperor and the Green Spirit Emperor. Space, time, space. Yi Chen was immersed in the charm of the distortion of time and space. The distortion of time and space transmitted by the scene might be a little less real, but it was still real, and it could give Yi Chen enlightenment. And space profound was his main profound. He watched it 10 times in a row. So that's how it is. Time and space are inseparable. Time originates from space and cannot exist alone. Without space, time loses its meaning. Space was born first, and then time. Space and time are mother and son. Without space, the world would be in chaos, so how could time be born? If I can comprehend space profound to perfection, I will be able to comprehend time profound. Yi Chen had never understood how to comprehend time profound, because he had no way to start. Time was an invisible existence, and he could only determine the changes of time through the changes of all things. However, there was no need to understand it now. As long as space profound was perfected, time profound would inevitably appear. Without perfected space profound, it would be useless no matter how much he tried to comprehend it. It could be said that the battle between the Heavenly Crystal Dragon Emperor and the Green Spirit Emperor had inspired Yi Chen. The space of the universe was extremely firm and difficult to tear, but once it was torn, even time would be affected. This was because time and space were closely connected, almost as if they were one. As for the space in Elysium, it was different from the space in the cosmos. Elysium was attached to the cosmos and absorbed the power of the cosmos. It belonged to the cosmos, but it was not a part of the cosmos. Therefore, tearing space in Elysium would not cause time to change. Perhaps there would be a change, but it would be very weak. Yi Chen still wanted to go to the 6th floor, but he was blocked by a layer of golden light at the entrance of the 6th floor. Alright, let's find a place to digest my understanding of space ultimacy. Instant of Glory is just one step away from becoming a rank 4 martial art. After leaving the imaging pagoda, Yi Chen flew towards Xu Jing's territory. Other places would work too, but he didn't know if there was a master there. Xu Jing's territory had a radius of 1,000,000 miles, so it was easy for her to find a place to cultivate. Half an hour later, Yi Chen arrived at Xu Jing's territory. Releasing his soul force, Yi Chen soon found a suitable grassland. Space, tear, explode. In Yi Chen's mind, the scene of the Green Spirit Emperor tearing space kept replaying. Space was similar to time, and it was also an invisible existence. However, when the Green Spirit Emperor tore space, time and space immediately distorted, producing an explosion. Space tearing produces an explosion. My instant of glory is also pursuing a momentary explosion. If it can have a bit of charm, it will be a success. Yi Chen thought. Standing on the grassland, Yi Chen closed his eyes and tried to recall. All of a sudden, Yi Chen moved. The silver snake sword was instantly unsheathed, and Yi Chen slashed out. It was extremely natural, but also extremely violent. Nature and violence were combined together. Bang! A huge pit appeared on the grassland. This sword strike, Yi Chen didn't use quintessential essence or sword intent, but its power was quite terrifying. This was the Azure Dragon planet. If it was on an ordinary planet, the power would be thousands of times greater. No, I still haven't perfectly integrated the profound meaning of space and sword art. It's too simple and crude. Yi Chen wasn't satisfied. He hadn't grasped the essence. Again. Yi Chen continued to recall and slash. Over and over again. In the boundless sea of clouds, in the palace, the majestic middle-aged man's eyes burst with a bronze light. He smiled and said, as expected of a shocking genius of the human race. His comprehension is not something ordinary people can compare with. Although this sword art is still very immature, it is gradually approaching the essence of space. I estimate that it won't be long before this sword art is completed. It's a pity that he can't be used now. Otherwise, if he fought with a foreign race sovereign, his growth rate might be even more astonishing. How could the majestic middle-aged man not see that Yi Chen's cultivation in martial arts had reached an extremely high realm? Among titled monarchs, there were basically few who could compare with him. Only the martial arts cultivation of sovereigns could give him inspiration. However, with Yi Chen's current strength, if he fought with an 8th heavenly sovereign, he would definitely lose. An 8th heavenly sovereign's teleportation ability was enough to make Yi Chen unable to escape. It could be said that the biggest difference between an 8th heavenly sovereign and a 7th heavenly sovereign was whether or not they could teleport. If they couldn't teleport, they were born to lose. However, I can't spoil things through excessive enthusiasm. According to my current progress speed, it's already quite impressive. If I go any faster, my foundation won't be able to keep up, and it will affect my future progress. With a smile, the majestic middle-aged man retracted his gaze. 1 day, 2 days. 1 week, 2 weeks. The inspiration in Yi Chen's mind had reached a terrifying level, and he was just short of the final step. No. 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 Yi Chen constantly denied his swordplay. He had reached a bottleneck that he had to step over. If he stepped over it, not only would his instant brilliance reach the power of a 4th-rank martial art, but it would also allow his swordplay cultivation to reach the next level. In the future, it would be easier for him to comprehend other 4th-rank martial arts. Tear, explode, explode, explode. Who? On the grassland, a gust of wind blew, causing the endless grass on the grassland to lower their heads, creating ripples that affected each other. Boom. Inspiration flashed in his mind like a thunderbolt. Yi Chen was enlightened. A chain reaction. Yes, a chain reaction. Yi Chen was too focused on the eruption, but he neglected the process. The eruption was only the result, the process was the most important. Taking a deep breath, Yi Chen cleared his mind of distracting thoughts. The silver serpent sword in his hand seemed slow but was actually very fast. During the process, the sword energy kept increasing, and when the sword energy reached the limit, it exploded. The grassland in front of him suddenly fluctuated. At the next moment, the surface of the grassland was distorted, and the soil was destroyed. Silently, a huge crater appeared. It came so suddenly, so violently. Instant brilliance, 4th rank. Chapter 1184. After staying on the Azure Dragon planet for a while, Yi Chen decided to leave. As for Xu Jing and Murong Qingcheng, they needed to cultivate without any distractions, and the Azure Dragon planet was perfect for them. Little guy, this is a gift from our dragon clan. On the plaza, Golden Armor Dragon Emperor tossed out 2 jade tags toward Yi Chen. One was entirely blue, and the other was shining with a colorful light. What are these? Catching the jade tags, Yi Chen examined them. Both had huge dragon carvings on them, looking quite extraordinary. The blue jade tag is the guest token of our dragon clan. As for the colorful jade plate, it is a sealing jade plate. This jade plate is very rare, and has the power of the sacred dragon fist sealed inside. In a life and death crisis, you can unseal the jade plate and release the power of the sacred dragon fist. The power of the sacred dragon fist is closely related to your cultivation. With your 6th sky of life and death realm cultivation base, you can probably only release the power of the 7th step sacred dragon fist. That's right, it's a guest badge of our dragon clan, which means that from now on, you are a guest warrior of our dragon clan. In other words, from now on, you are a guest warrior of our dragon clan. If you have any problems that you can't solve, you can come to our dragon clan for help. Golden Armor Dragon Emperor said with a smile. Thanks. Even rank 7 Sacred Dragon Fist's power was already very powerful. It could instantly kill a low-level emperor, and even a mid-level emperor would be heavily wounded. No need to thank me. If you live longer, it will be good for our dragon clan. Hee, I'll try my best. The Phantom took off, flying toward the atmosphere of the Azure Dragon planet. Try your best to stay alive. The alien race will not allow you to become stronger. Golden Armor Dragon Emperor mumbled to himself. He had seen too many geniuses fall in the hands of the alien race. He himself was not a world-shaking genius, but he had encountered countless dangers in his life. If he had not survived even one, he would not be here anymore. In other words, the more frightening Yi Chen's talent was, the more dangerous his situation would be. The alien race would do anything to eliminate him, lest the human race have another supreme. Suddenly, Golden Armor Dragon Emperor smiled. The human race is not anxious, but our dragon clan is. Paradise of God. Right now, I have shown too much power. I'm afraid that the non-human kind has been planning to kill me for a long time. If I show a little bit more power, a little bit scarier, the non-human kind will probably launch a bigger plan and send out more powerful assassins just to be safe. The tallest tree in the forest will be blown away by the wind. This saying is not without reason. It seems that I shouldn't provoke the foreign races too much for a long time. Let's wait until I have some confidence. After looking at the God of War pagoda, Yi Chen shook his head and turned to leave. The God of War pagoda had a total of 10 levels. Reaching the 10th level would give one the power of a battle emperor. If passing the 10th level, one would have the power of a battle emperor. Yi Chen had the so-called battle emperor power a long time ago, so passing the 10th level was not a problem for him. It was said that passing the 10th level of the God of War pagoda and survival tower would give a lot of shunbi, enough to exchange for 3 high-grade heavenly king sets. And high-grade heavenly king sets were equivalent to high-grade tier armor. In addition, high-grade heavenly king sets could also increase one's energy and combat power by several times. In terms of value, they were several times more valuable than high-grade tier armor. However, Yi Chen did not plan to pass the God of War pagoda and survival tower so early. This was mainly because once he passed the God of War pagoda and survival tower, he would leave his name on the God of War tablet and survival tablet on the 10th level. One had to know that all the God of War tablets and survival tablets were the same. Once he left his name, the other members of the Paradise would also know. In this way, he would not be able to hide it even if he wanted to. He could only wait for the non-human kind to assassinate him. He could not always hide in his house and not go out. Of course, this was mainly because the reward was not high enough. If it were enough for Yi Chen to exchange for a peak heavenly king set, perhaps Yi Chen would consider it. A high-level heavenly king set would cost 5 million, and a peak heavenly king set would cost 30 million. In terms of defense, a peak heavenly king set was comparable to a low-level emperor armor. Moreover, it could amplify one's energy by 10 times under the 7th layer of life and death realm, which was equivalent to 10 times the battle power. At Yi Chen's level, 10 times the battle power might not be much. A slight improvement in his martial arts would increase his battle power by dozens or even hundreds of times. However, sometimes, it was crucial. After all, there was a limit to one's defense. In the following days, Yi Chen stayed in the 2nd floor of the Time Tower. He was not trying to increase his cultivation base, but trying to comprehend the sword domain. The higher the sword domain, the harder it was to improve. Although the sword domain had great benefits in improving the sword domain, one had to have a deep understanding of the sword domain. Otherwise, one would not be able to absorb too much of the sword Dao essence. At this moment, Yi Chen's sword domain had already reached the peak of the 5th layer, only 1 step away from the 6th layer. The peak of the 5th layer and the 6th layer seemed to be separated by only 1 step, but the difference was like heaven and earth. Domain was the obstacle for all experts. Even Supremes would have a headache when it came to domains. The majority of Supreme's domains were still at the 8th layer, and some body refinement king's domains were still at the peak of the 7th layer. If Yi Chen could push his sword domain to the 6th layer, it would undoubtedly be a qualitative improvement. Time flew by like a shuttle. In the blink of an eye, it was time to enter the high-rank hunting battlefield. The Demon Hunter squad had become a taboo in the high-rank hunting battlefield. Basically, no alien race Paradise squad dared to approach them. As soon as they saw the Demon Hunter squad, they would run away, making the other members of the Demon Hunter squad very depressed. Yi Chen, on the other hand, did not think much of it. He knew that everything had 2 sides. Without opponents, the Demon Hunter squad focused all their attention on killing god insects. They could only rely on killing god insects to accumulate shunbi. Fortunately, everyone was afraid of them, so they had no scruples. They searched everywhere for god insects. The more powerful they were, the better. Ordinary god insects, elite god insects, and commander god insects. They killed batch after batch. After 7 days, the Exorcist team had killed 100 ordinary god insects, 30 elite god insects, and 10 commander god insects. The team's total profit, including the team's rewards, had reached 1,211,000 divine coins. Yi Chen alone took the greater half, 700,000 divine coins. Although it was not as much as before, it was still a lot. After leaving the hunting tower, Yi Chen returned to the second floor of the Tower of Time. At the same time, the geniuses outside were surging. 10 years had passed, and the gods' trial field was about to open again. Rumor had it that this time, the number of people entering the paradise of God would be increased. In the past, there were only about 10 people, but this time, it might increase to 20 or even 30 people. The main reason was that the paradise of God had too few members, and they needed to replenish some new blood. Of course, the number of people was in the hands of the paradise of God's deity. He was the manager of the paradise of God, and in his eyes, there must be a standard. If one didn't pass the standard, he would most likely not let them enter. Chapter 1185. 1 month later, the gods' trial field opened. All the geniuses under the age of 50 from the 4 major life-star fields rushed over, ready to display their skills and stand out. Among these geniuses, there was a group of unfamiliar geniuses who were very eye-catching. It was a woman who was obviously from the dragon race. Her sacred dragon fist was extremely tyrannical, much stronger than Yang Ting's from the previous generation. Based on the form of her sacred dragon fist, people guessed that she was a high-level golden dragon of the dragon race. Everyone had seen a lot of beautiful women who cultivated demonic chi. There were a large number of beautiful women on the scene. Each and every one of them had top-notch looks and temperament. However, compared to this beautiful woman who cultivated demonic chi, all of them were slightly inferior. Although it was just a little bit, it was very difficult to surpass her. After all, even beautiful women had their limits. Obviously, this beautiful woman had reached her limit. Moreover, her strength was not weak. She was one of the top geniuses present. There was a white-haired young bladesman with a terrifying saber art. It was hard to describe how terrifying his saber art was. It was even stronger than the peerless bladesman Lung Feifen from the previous generation. Up until now, no one had been able to block his saber. There was a woman in red with an ethereal temperament. Her movements were very fast. She was the fastest among the geniuses present. In addition, her palm art was also very good. There was not a trace of smoke in it, but it had great destructive power. Her sword art was extremely cold, almost catching up to the genius sword King Yi Chen of the previous generation. There was a woman in blue whose saber art was only slightly inferior to the white-haired young bladesman. No one knew where they came from. Just like Yi Chen's sudden appearance, they quickly became famous in the 4 major life-star fields and shook the entire genius world. These people were naturally geniuses from Elysium. In the end, 28 people stood out and qualified to enter the gods' paradise. 7 of them were from Elysium: Xu Jing, Murong Qingcheng, Du Guju, Dantai Mingyu, Snowsword of Gojosian, Lan Sanmai, and Jiang Tian. In Elysium, there were actually a few geniuses at this level, such as Chu Zhongtian, Liu Wujian, and the others. However, these people were already over 50 years old, which was quite a pity. Among the 7, Xu Jing and Du Guju ranked 1st and 2nd, Snowsword of Gojosian 4th, Jiang Tian 5th, Dantai Mingyu 7th, Lan Sanmai 14th, and Murong Qingcheng 15th. In terms of perception, Murong Qingcheng was slightly inferior to the other 6. Before Elysium's wild star was discovered, Murong Qingcheng's ranking was actually very high. Paradise of God. Xu Jing, Du Guju, and the other 28 people looked around curiously. It was their first time coming to the paradise of gods, so they were very interested in everything. Welcome to the paradise of gods. Yi Chen flew over with a smile on his face. He had come out a day earlier. After all, the people of Elysium had entered the paradise of gods, so he had to do his part as a host. Fuck, what's going on? Sword King Yi Chen has to personally welcome this group of newcomers. Yi Chen is the #1 person in many paradises. Ordinary people can't even see him. Maybe he's a friend of the Sword King. Yes, it should be. Only friends don't care about the difference in strength between them. Many members of the paradise of gods were discussing. Yi Chen wasn't just like the sun at noon in the paradise of gods. In other paradises, Yi Chen was also a topic that had to be talked about. Whether they admitted it or not, Yi Chen was the number one person in the paradise of gods. It couldn't be changed. Yi Chen had many titles and nicknames, such as Genius Sword King, Paradise's number one person, Strongest Battler, and King of Hunters. Genius Sword King was Yi Chen's title in the beginning. Now, he was the Sword King title, the same as in Elysium. As for the number one person in the paradise of gods, it was everyone's respectful title. Strongest Battler and King of Hunters were the terrifying achievements of Yi Chen in the advanced hunting battlefield. In just 10 years, Yi Chen had changed the situation in the advanced hunting battlefield where only a few families were dominant. Why is this guy the number one person everywhere he goes? Jiang Tian was very unhappy. If you have the ability, you can be the number one person too. Lan Sanmai heard Jiang Tian's muttering. Looking at Xu Jing's group of 7 being invited to the Paradise of Gods hotel by Yi Chen, the remaining 21 newcomers were curious and envious. They couldn't help but ask around. Although they had heard about Yi Chen's achievements, they didn't know the details. Moreover, news always needed time to spread. Yi Chen's achievements in the past few years hadn't spread like wildfire. After asking around, the 21 newcomers were dumbfounded. In just 10 years, he had become the number one person in the paradise of gods. This was too abnormal. Immediately, their fighting spirit rose. The paradise of gods was just the beginning. They had nothing to be proud of. They could only struggle from the bottom. In the hotel, the 8 of them sat around a table. Jiang Tian also had a share. The past was the past, and there were no grudges between them. There was no need to be so petty and exclude each other. After ordering a table full of top-grade wine, Yi Chen said, "It's very difficult to earn Shunbi in the early stages of the paradise of gods. You have to be mentally prepared. In the next few years, you will all have to struggle in there and won't be able to leave the paradise of gods. I believe 100 Shunbi is very important to you. You won't waste it. Entering and exiting the paradise of gods cost 100 Shunbi. Going back and forth would cost 200 Shunbi. This was a huge sum for newcomers. After all, they could only earn Shunbi by challenging the God of War Pagoda and Survival Pagoda. There was no other way. You have already survived. There's no reason we can't." Dugu Ju didn't seem to care. "Not bad." The snow sword of Gojosian nodded. "Haha, everyone, let's drink. I hope all of you can succeed." Yi Chen didn't tell them how dangerous the paradise of gods hunting battlefield was. He believed that they had already investigated it. It would be pretentious if he told them. The next day, everyone started challenging the God of War Pagoda. The results were shocking. Xu Jing and Dugu Ju both made it to the 4th level, the same result as Yi Chen. The snow sword of Gojosian, Jiang Tian, and Dantai Mingyu were on the 3rd level. Lan Sanmai and Murong Qingcheng were on the 2nd level. This result wasn't too exaggerated. One had to know that when Yi Chen participated in the divine trial, he wasn't even 40. Now, everyone was close to 50, and in history, the 1st and 2nd place of the divine trial were actually around 40 years old. Top geniuses usually participated at this age. If one really waited until they were 50 to participate, they wouldn't be considered top geniuses. It was just that this year was a little special. For example, if Arju and Lung Feifen also waited until this year to participate, they would definitely be the 1st and 2nd place. If Yi Chen also waited until this year to participate, he would be the 1st. 1st and 2nd place weren't important. What was important was what kind of results one could achieve in the paradise of gods. It could be said that the paradise of gods was the true starting point for a genius. What you had achieved before was nothing. Here, anyone could easily defeat you. If you couldn't keep up, you would only be eliminated and gradually become a lower class. Chapter 1186. Not staying too long in the paradise of gods, Yi Chen, Scarlet Wind Emperor, Snow Emperor, and the Air Emperor agreed to meet at the end of the month. On the ship of God, Yi Chen quietly headed to the Black Tortoise Starfield's Golden Armor Planet. Golden Armor Planet, Sun Moon Restaurant. Haha, we were waiting for you. I thought you would be a few days late. Scarlet Wind Emperor welcomed him with a smile. Yi Chen saw the Fire Sparrow Emperor and the Stone Golem Emperor and said, "Looks like I'm the slowest." "Of course, you're the slowest. We arrived 3 days ago." The Fire Sparrow Emperor curled his lips. The five sat down and started eating. When they were almost done, they started talking. "Brother Yi, we agreed to meet at the end of the month. You should have guessed something, right?" Scarlet Wind Emperor drank a mouthful of wine and said. Yi Chen said, "It should be a team exploration. You hit the nail on the head. Not bad." Scarlet Wind Emperor gave a thumbs up, admiring Yi Chen. Yi Chen smiled. "What secret realm? I'm not interested if it's an ordinary secret realm." His own disciple had started to explore secret realms. Yi Chen was somewhat curious. After all, he had been in the 4 major starfields for more than a decade. It was inexcusable that he hadn't entered a star secret realm even once. Violet Secret Realm. Snow Air Emperor continued. "Oh. One of the 3 Emperor-level secret realms. Secret realms were divided into many levels. The lowest was the King level, followed by the Heavenly King level, then the Emperor level, and the most terrifying Supreme level. Emperor-level mystic realms were more suitable for the 7th Heavens titled monarchs. To 7th Heaven titled monarchs, it wasn't considered too dangerous. However, this was just an ordinary Emperor-level mystic realm. As one of the 3 great Emperor-level mystic realms, the Violet Flower Mystic Realm was 10 times more dangerous. Even peak-level monarchs would face considerable danger if they entered. Correspondingly, there were many treasures within the Violet Flower Mystic Realm. There were all sorts of Emperor-level spiritual herbs within. The magnificent purple Immortal grass was a peak Emperor-tier spirit herb. It could heal soul injuries and restore soul force. It was not an exaggeration to call it a life-saving spirit herb at a critical moment. Other than spirit herbs, there were also many other treasures in the Violet Flower Secret Realm. As long as one could come out alive, they would not return empty-handed. "Did you find any life and death fruits in the Violet Secret Realm?" Yi Chen suddenly asked. "Fruit of life and death?" The Snow Air Emperor was astonished. "What do you want this for? This thing is useless to us. It is only useful to those who have no hope of advancing to the life and death realm." Yi Chen didn't hide anything. "This is for my parents. So that's how it is. However, I really don't know if the Violet Mystery Area has the fruit of life and death. I think it should. After all, the Violet Mystery Area is rich in spiritual grasses." On the side, the Stone Emperor said, "The life and death fruit is a very special spirit plant in the universe. It doesn't grow in a fixed place. It can exist in any special place. If you want to find it, you might not find it in your entire life. But if you're lucky, you can find it anywhere." "That's true." Yi Chen nodded and said, "Why did you think of me? Actually, we haven't known each other for that long." Hearing this, the Fire Sparrow Emperor said, "What? Are you afraid that we'll cheat you?" "Not really. I'm just a bit curious." The Scarlet Wind Emperor explained, "There's no need to think about 8th-level Sky Emperors. They usually choose to explore Emperor-level secret realms. Although we know many people below 8th-level Sky Emperors, there aren't many who are strong enough. Most importantly, everyone has their own circle. The 4 of us are a circle. I don't know if you're willing to join us." As he spoke, the Scarlet Wind Emperor looked at Yi Chen. "Since you guys don't mind, then Yi Chen will gladly accept. I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation in the future." Yi Chen didn't act pretentious and said straightforwardly, "A pleasant cooperation." The Scarlet Wind Emperor and the Snow Air Emperor revealed a faint smile. Yi Chen's potential and strength were obvious to all. Whether it was because of Yi Chen's outstanding temperament or because of Yi Chen's potential, it wouldn't be wrong to make friends with him. "When do we leave?" Yi Chen asked. "There's no rush. I have an incomplete map of the Violet Flower Secret Realm. Let's study it first. It's better than wandering around." The Scarlet Wind Emperor took out an incomplete map. Although it was called an incomplete map, it was actually quite complete. The material was similar to sheepskin, but it was many times tougher than sheepskin. It faintly glowed, and there were many lines carved on it. Yi Chen looked over and found that the lines were very dense. He couldn't see anything at all. When he focused, he discovered that it was a miniature map. He needed to magnify it by 1,000 times to see it clearly. It was obvious that this map covered a very large area. I obtained this map fragment from an auction. If it's real, then it can save us a lot of time and also avoid a lot of danger. The areas marked in red should be dangerous areas, and the areas marked in green should be treasures. However, I've been to the Violet Flower Secret Realm a few times, and I haven't found a similar terrain. Take a look and see if you've seen any familiar terrain. The Scarlet Wind Emperor completely spread out the map fragment. Yi Chen had never been to the Violet Flower Secret Realm, so he didn't have the right to speak. He silently memorized the map. After half the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the Stone Man Emperor pointed at a small dot. This dot was magnified by 1,000 times, and it was a Jade Maiden Peak. He said, "I've been to this place before." "Good, like this, we've deciphered this map." The Scarlet Wind Emperor was in high spirits. As long as they could find the Jade Maiden Peak, this map would be of great use. "Let's depart in 3 days. Everyone, get ready." Putting away the map, the Scarlet Wind Emperor suggested. "Sure." Yi Chen nodded. "We have no objections." 3 days later, the 5 of them set off. The Violet Flower Secret Realm was not located in the 4 major life star fields. It was located 300,000 light-years to the southeast of the Black Tortoise star field. The 5 of them first used the transmission array to arrive at the southeastern edge of the Black Tortoise star field, then boarded the Scarlet Wind Emperor's small Emperor-grade warship. Speaking of this small Emperor-grade warship, it was something the Scarlet Wind Emperor found in a secret realm. At that time, it was very broken, and he had to spend countless essence stones to find someone to fix it. In terms of speed, an Emperor-grade warship was 3 times faster than an Emperor-grade warship. Crossing 300,000 light-years would only take a dozen days. The interior of the Emperor-grade warship was luxurious, many times more luxurious than Yi Chen's phantom ship. The southern part of the Black Tortoise starfield is occupied by the demons and other alien tribes. The Violet Flower Secret Realm is not too far from these alien tribes. This time, we will inevitably run into the demons and other alien tribes experts. Everyone, be careful. In the space, every secret realm was dangerous, but the majority of the danger came from the alien tribes, unless it was the secret realms in the 4 major life star fields. However, the secret realms in the 4 major life star fields were mostly king-grade secret realms, heavenly king-grade secret realms, and higher-grade secret realms were rare. What's there to be afraid of? If one comes, we'll just kill one. The Firebird Emperor's eyes glimmered with a crimson light. Chapter 1187. 10 days was not a short period of time for ordinary people, but for Yi Chen and the rest, it was just a blink of an eye. Casually drinking some wine and looking at the image recording crystal, the time passed by quickly. We're here. On this day, Scarlet Wind Emperor controlled a small Emperor-grade battleship and appeared in the sky. Through the crystal, the 5 saw a faint purple whirlpool, which was the entrance to the Violet Secret Realm. Emperor Shuekong said, "There are dozens of entrances to the Violet Secret Realm, and the locations of these entrances are not fixed. This time, we appeared on the ocean, and the next time, we might appear on land. It's purely a matter of luck. If we're lucky, we might be teleported to the location on the map, saving a lot of time. Let's go in," Stone Emperor said to Scarlet Wind Emperor. All right. Scarlet Wind Emperor controlled the battleship and entered the whirlpool. Buzz. The whirlpool wriggled and the battleship disappeared. The next moment, the battleship arrived on a green ocean. On a closer look, it was not an ocean, but a boundless green zone. There were many kinds of plants below, including vines, trees, flowers, and shrubs. It looked very crowded and green. "I've never been here before," Stone Emperor said suspiciously. "I've never been here either." "Who cares? The Violet Secret Realm is unimaginably huge. Up until now, no one has even explored a tenth of it. It's normal that you've never been here." Scarlet Wind Emperor didn't mind as he continued to control the battleship. The interior of the Violet Secret Realm was filled with dense air currents, making it impossible to travel through the void. Regardless of the grade of the battleship, it would need to reach light speed to travel through the void. It was completely different from the instant movement of an 8th-layer Emperor. However, an Emperor-grade battleship was still an Emperor-grade battleship. After flying for an hour, the 5 still couldn't see the edge of the green zone. Even with Yi Chen's soul eye, he couldn't see it. Worthy of the Violet Secret Realm. Yi Chen sighed inwardly. His soul eye could see things a billion li away, but he couldn't see the edge of the plant zone. This meant that the plant zone's width far exceeded a billion li. It was many times larger than True Spirit Continent, Blood Sky Continent, and Sky Sword Continent combined. It could even be called a green continent. Hey! Look, there seems to be a battleship wreckage below. The Flamingo Emperor seemed to have discovered something. Battleship wreckage? What's going on? Soon, Yi Chen's group of 4 also saw the wreckage of a warship scattered on the ground hundreds of thousands of miles away. These warship wreckages were all covered by plants, and without careful observation, it would be hard to notice. It looks like it was torn. The Stone Golem Emperor's expression changed. Yi Chen said, "It seems like this is an Emperor-class warship. What could possibly tear it apart?" Tearing apart and destroying were two different things. Destroying wasn't difficult, but tearing apart was much more difficult. The Scarlet Wind Emperor muttered, "I'm afraid we've come to a dangerous place. Below us, there might be terrifying plant life similar to the monarch flower." Plant lifeforms were very difficult to deal with. Their attacks were usually overwhelming, and there was no way to escape. Once one was entangled, there was only a slim chance of survival. Among them, the Emperor flowers were the most notorious. "Let's go up first," the Snow Air Emperor suggested. The Scarlet Wind Emperor nodded and raised the Scarlet Wind higher. The sky above the Purple Flower Secret Realm was filled with purple air currents. The higher they went, the denser the purple air currents were. There were also purple electric currents flashing in the purple air currents. It was said that at a certain height, the powerful purple electric currents could even endanger a beginner-level Emperor warrior's life. The Scarlet Wind Emperor didn't dare to go any higher after about 5,000 meters. The purple electric currents hit the Scarlet Wind's energy shield, making crackling sounds. The consumption of the source stones increased rapidly. The higher the level of the warship, the faster the consumption of the source stones. Of course, the 5 of them weren't ordinary people, so they didn't care about the source stones. Whoosh! The change in altitude caused the Scarlet Wind to slow down. The resistance of the purple air currents was very strong. "I hope we can leave this plant area safely." The Scarlet Wind Emperor let out a sigh and smiled bitterly. Adapt to the situation. It's impossible for there to be danger in such a large plant area. Although it was Yi Chen's first time exploring the Galaxy Secret Realm, he didn't feel nervous at all. Maybe he was born for an intense life. After flying for another hour, a small Emperor-class warship appeared in front of them. The warship didn't maintain a high altitude, so it probably hadn't sensed the danger in the plant area. "It's the Yakshaw race's Emperor-class warship." The Fire Sparrow Emperor sneered. "They're in danger." Yi Chen's pupils shrank. He could feel a sense of danger coming to the underground. Since the Purple Flower Secret Realm was way too special, there were so many plants that he could not even imagine. For a moment, he could not tell what was going on with his soul eyes. He only knew that it was not a good thing. As soon as Yi Chen's voice faded, whoosh, 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 countless air-piercing sounds rang out as black vines shot towards the Emperor-class warship. The black vines were so fast that the warship didn't even have time to react before it was tightly bound. "Oh my God, why are there death god vines? Run!" The door of the Emperor-class warship opened, and 4 figures flew out. In the next moment, the energy barrier of the warship twisted, and dozens of vines pierced through the warship, tearing it apart. The monarchs of the Yakshaw race who had flown out of the warship didn't care about what happened to the warship. All of them flew up quickly, their faces pale. Unfortunately, no matter how fast they were, they couldn't outrun the black vines. One of the monarchs had his right leg entangled, and he was dragged down. He tried to cut off his right leg, but it was too late. 2 more vines had wrapped around his body. No matter how much energy he used, it was useless. If he didn't attack directly, he wouldn't be able to cause much damage to the death god vines. Phut! The monarchs of the Yakshar race were dragged into the depths of the ground, and their screams stopped. The other 3 monarchs of the Yakshar race attacked the black vines crazily. Huge saber chi, fist force, and water arrows tore the black vines apart. However, at this moment, a purple lightning struck down, and the monarchs of the Yakshar race who had flown up the highest screamed and fell down. He had risen too high, and the purple electric currents in the sky were attracted by his body. They gathered together and turned into a thick purple lightning that struck him. His body was covered with purple electric currents, and he was also dragged down by the black vines. Only the 2 monarchs of the Yakshar race were left. One of them saw the Scarlet Wind Thircha's Scarlet Wind ship and hurriedly said, "Run in that direction." These 2 bastards. The Scarlet Wind Thircha's expression was ugly. The death god vines were plant lifeforms that were even more terrifying than the archflower. Given the death god vine's power, they might not be able to penetrate the Scarlet Wind ship's defenses. However, they could still entangle the Scarlet Wind ship and drag it down. The Scarlet Wind ship was his lifeblood. Go! The Scarlet Wind the Arch steered the Scarlet Wind ship away from the 2. Stop! The monarchs of the Yakshar race who were flying in front slashed at the Scarlet Wind ship. With a bang, the Scarlet Wind ship shook, and its speed decreased significantly. Chapter 1188. Courting Death. The Scarlet Wind Emperor was not a benevolent person. Moreover, the other party was one of the mortal enemies of the human race, the Yakshar race. On the Scarlet Wind ship, 24 puppet cannons were aimed over. Boom! Boom! 24 scarlet-red beams of light shot out. 2 titled monarchs of the Yakshar race had to increase their speed to shake off the death god vines, so they were unable to dodge in time. One of them was hit by one of the cannons, and although the other managed to dodge, he was also affected by the shockwave. The Scarlet Wind ship was a Thirch-class battleship, and its puppet cannons were very powerful. Even a peak-tier the Arch would be severely injured and lose his ability to fight if he was hit. The Thirch-tier monarch of the Yakshar race who was hit instantly burst into red flames. Even his Thirch-tier armor was damaged. This showed how powerful the Thirch-tier puppet cannons were. Blood-curdling screams rang out one after another as the 2 of them were dragged down by the death god vines. After settling the problem, the Scarlet Wind Emperor continued to control the Scarlet Wind battleship to fly at its maximum speed. However, he didn't think that it would be easy to get rid of the death god vine, so he began to accumulate energy for the main cannon. Scarlet Wind had 24 puppet cannons. Among them, 22 were secondary cannons, and 2 were main cannons. Each shot of the secondary cannons would consume around 200,000 yuan stones. Normally, the power of the main cannon was similar to that of the secondary cannons, but the material of the main cannon was better, and the formations carved on it were more powerful. It could continuously accumulate yuan stone energy. When the yuan stone energy was accumulated to the limit, a shot of the cannon would be dozens of times more powerful than the secondary cannons. Even a low-level emperor warrior would be severely injured or even killed. Of course, puppet cannons were inanimate objects, and they could only attack in a straight line. Unless a low-level emperor warrior stood still, the chance of being hit was infinitely close to 0. I didn't expect to encounter a death vine here. The Snow Air Emperor's face was filled with worry. The death god vine was named after the death god, and naturally, it wasn't just a rumor. The emperor-ranked death god vine was an overwhelming existence to any 7th heaven titled monarch. In a one-on-one battle, there was almost no chance of victory. Furthermore, titled monarchs that were weaker than high-class emperors were cannon fodder that could be instantly killed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The Reaper vine caught up. Die. The Scarlet Wind Emperor controlled the 22 secondary cannons and started firing. Unfortunately, the puppet cannon could only attack in a straight line. It was not flexible enough, so it was hard for it to hit the Reaper vine. Fortunately, it slightly suppressed the Reaper Vine's attack speed. Turn right. There's a grim Reaper Vine ahead too. It was at this time that Yi Chen quickly spoke, reminding the Scarlet Wind Emperor. Fuck. The Scarlet Wind Emperor was shocked. He hurriedly controlled the Scarlet Wind to make a right turn and drew a beautiful and rapid red arc in midair, barely dodging the attack of the Death God Vines. Hold on a little longer. The main cannon's energy is almost fully charged. The Scarlet Wind Emperor's forehead began to sweat. Not only was he worried about whether or not he could escape from this vegetative zone, he was even more worried about whether or not his Scarlet Wind would encounter any mishaps. This was his lifeblood, and if he were to sell it, he could easily earn a few billion. Furthermore, there was no market for it. Hoo. Scarlet Wind broke through the purple air currents and flew at its limit. Yi Chen reckoned that if it was his phantom, it would have been torn into two by the Death God Vines. After a dozen breaths, the Scarlet Wind Emperor said joyfully, "All right, these two detestable fellows have a taste of the power of the main cannon of the Emperor-level warship." The main cannon turned around and aimed behind him. Boom. Boom. Two earth-shattering explosions were heard. The Scarlet Wind ship shook violently as if it could not bear the recoil of the main cannon. The five of them scanned the area behind them with their soul power and saw two red beams of light shooting into the ground. In the next moment, two terrifying fireballs exploded. The fireballs grew bigger and bigger until they formed a hemispherical shape. Each of them covered a radius of a few hundred miles. In the end, they collided with each other, as if a red sphere had been split in half. The black vines of the Death God Vines were shattered by the fireballs, falling down powerlessly. They could no longer chase after the Scarlet Wind ship. Success. The Scarlet Wind Emperor wore a smile on his face. The main cannon of the Emperor-level warship is indeed powerful. Yi Chen was astonished. The Purple Flower Secret Realm was similar to a life-preserving planet, and it had a severe rejection of energy. Even so, the main cannon of the Emperor-level warship could still destroy hundreds of miles of ground. How could it not be powerful? Two cannons cost 10 million yuan stones. The Scarlet Wind Emperor said proudly. TSK, isn't it just an Emperor-level warship? The Fire Sparrow Emperor said with disdain. The Snow Air Emperor laughed. Little Sparrow, are you jealous? Me? Jealous of him? Shut up. It seems like we have provoked a really powerful creature. The Stone Man Emperor looked serious as he pointed to the right. Tens of thousands of miles to the right, a horrifying black vine that was over 10,000 miles long and hundreds of meters thick broke out of the ground. This black vine was not only bare, but it also had many branches, and there were even more vines on the branches. It was like an inescapable net. Compared to it, the Death God Vines were not even worth mentioning. Is that the Emperor-level Death God Vines? Since when has the Purple Flower Secret Realm become so dangerous? This time, everyone was a little dumbfounded. We can see the edge there. Let's go there. There was always a way out. Yi Chen used his soul eyes and finally saw the edge of the green land. It was a purple air current with lightning flashing. Although it did not look very safe, it was better than fighting the Emperor-level Death God Vines. Let's go. At this moment, no one had any will to fight. If the Emperor-level Death God Vines caught up, they would definitely die. This green land should be the Death God Vines' territory. The Scarlet Wind was fast, but the Emperor-level Death God Vines were even faster. 20,000 miles. 10,000 miles. 5,000 miles. 2,000 miles. Swoosh. A vine that was slightly thinner but was still a dozen meters thick extended from the main vine and ruthlessly lashed at the Scarlet Wind. Immediately, the Scarlet Wind was sent flying. Its energy shield was extremely distorted and was on the verge of shattering. Everyone, leave the Scarlet Wind now. As soon as the Scarlet Wind was thrown away, the Scarlet Wind Emperor knew it was not good. He quickly opened the cabin door and let everyone out. Swoosh. Swoosh. The five rushed out, and the Scarlet Wind Emperor put away the Scarlet Wind. In terms of traveling speed, the Scarlet Wind Emperor could not compare to the Scarlet Wind Emperor himself. However, the Scarlet Wind Emperor was safer because its energy shield could withstand multiple attacks from a beginner-level Emperor-level warrior. But now was not the time to care about that. The giant Scarlet Wind Emperor had become a live target. After leaving the Scarlet Wind Emperor, the 5's speed increased. They were getting closer and closer to the purple air current at the edge of the Greenland, but the Emperor-level Death God vines were also getting closer. Soon, the 5 increased their speed to the limit. Among them, Yi Chen was the fastest. Swoosh! At this moment, the Rock Emperor, who was the slowest, suddenly stopped. His feet were entangled by a vine as thick as a wrist. The vine then split into even thinner vines, entangling the Rock Emperor's body. "You guys go." Seeing the 4 turn around, the Rock Emperor's face flashed with a struggling expression. He then roared. No. The Fire Sparrow Emperor was usually carefree, but she was the first to rush over. Bang! Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of the Fire Sparrow Emperor and knocked her back. "What are you doing?" The Fire Sparrow Emperor glared at Yi Chen with fire in his eyes. "I'm going to save him." Then, Yi Chen quickly flew toward the Rock Emperor. Chapter 1189. The Stone Puppet Emperor was very strong, even stronger than the Scarlet Wind Emperor. However, once his limbs and body were entangled, he couldn't even use 10 to 20% of his power. He was like a strong insect stuck in a spider's web. He could only struggle on his deathbed. At this time, the Stone Puppet Emperor had already given up. It was good to buy some time for the others. However, he didn't expect that Yi Chen would choose to save him. "Yi Chen, what are you doing? Leave quickly. Don't die." If Yi Chen had the power to save him, then so be it. However, no matter how strong he was, could he be strong enough to fight against the Death God Vine? The Stone Puppet Emperor didn't want Yi Chen to die because of him. He was already very satisfied that Yi Chen had such intentions. This young man was one of the most outstanding youths he had ever seen, whether it was in terms of potential or character. "Don't worry. I haven't lived enough." Yi Chen had about 70 to 80% confidence. His confidence came from the space ultimacy. The Eternal Night Emperor sword was unsheathed. Yi Chen didn't have time to use his strongest move. He directly used the peak-second transformation sword technique, Raging Spring Incineration. The fierce sword energy cut the vine apart and cut off the connection between the Stone Puppet Emperor and the vine. With the power of the Eternal Night Emperor sword, even if it was only the peak-second transformation sword technique, Raging Spring Incineration, it would still be very powerful. This vine wasn't the main vine of the Death God vine. It was just a branch vine, so it wasn't difficult to cut it. The Death God vine's terrifying part was that it was entangled. Its toughness wasn't that terrifying. Of course, if it was the main vine, Yi Chen definitely wouldn't be able to cut it. It was too difficult. "Go." Yi Chen's figure flashed. He grabbed the Stone Puppet Emperor's shoulder and quickly fled. After breaking off the remaining vines, the Stone Puppet Emperor felt like he had escaped from death. However, he knew that things weren't over yet. During this period of time, the Death God vine was much closer to them. That main vine was like a huge black dragon that stretched for tens of thousands of miles, giving people a strong sense of oppression. Those vines covered a large area and were about to cover the 2 of them. Su. Sure enough, 7 to 8 vines as thick as a human's wrist lashed out at the 2 of them. The speed was so fast that it was like an absolute whip technique performed by an expert. "Be careful." Caught by Yi Chen, the Stone Puppet Emperor couldn't retaliate at all. If he did, he would die even faster. However, he had underestimated Yi Chen. Yi Chen took a step forward with his right foot, and with a swoosh, not only did his speed increase, but his height also rose by 10 meters. The process was like teleportation, and the 7 or 8 vines struck nothing but air. Although 90% of his space profound couldn't allow Yi Chen to teleport, it could allow him to almost teleport. This was a kind of manipulation of space, a kind of borrowing power. Amazing. The Stone Golem Emperor's eyes lit up. He thought that he was going to be chosen. With his control of space, Yi Chen dodged left and right, dodging the attacks of the vines by a hair's breadth. It was as if the attacks of the vines didn't exist in the same dimension as him. Gradually, Yi Chen caught up with the 3 in front. Although he was carrying one person, Yi Chen's speed was still a bit faster than the three in front. Close. The five of them approached the edge of the green continent one after the other. In the purple air current, lightning flashed like purple electric snakes. However, compared to the death god vines behind them, these purple electric snakes weren't too dangerous. At worst, they could enter the Scarlet Wind battleship. With the Scarlet Wind battleship's frightening defense, normal purple lightning couldn't hurt them. Yi Chen, do your best. The Scarlet Wind battleship Emperor and the other two in front said quietly. They were in front, so they weren't in much danger. The death god vines wouldn't attack them first. They were worried about the safety of Yi Chen and the stone puppet Emperor. Swoosh. Suddenly, the air current in the air started spinning violently, like a calm lake being stirred up, which greatly affected everyone's speed. Not good, it's going to attack the main vine. Using their soul power, they saw the tens of thousands of miles long and hundreds of meters thick main vine fiercely lashing at them. Although the main vine was 2,000 miles away from Yi Chen, the countless vines on the main vine were like a huge net, covering the sky and covering the earth. They twisted the air current in the area into a mess, sometimes forming whirlpools, sometimes forming sharp air currents, and sometimes forming tornadoes. Go. There were too many vines. Yi Chen couldn't guarantee that he could dodge all of them, and he couldn't use his sword either. If he did, his speed would definitely be affected. With a thought, the silver snake sword on Yi Chen's waist automatically flew out of its sheath, turning into a beam of silver light, slashing towards the incoming vines. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Although the defensive sword art wasn't that powerful for Yi Chen right now, it wasn't like Yi Chen hadn't studied it before. He could already control the sword through the air and perform different sword arts. Of course, right now, he could only perform the second revolution sword art. He couldn't perform the third revolution sword art. There were still some differences between performing it through the air and performing it on his own. It was impossible to perform it exactly the same. Heaven lightning earth fire. Raging fire burning spring. Autumn slaughter. 10,000 flowers snatch life. White dragon destroys the world. 5-second revolution sword arts were performed, especially the most powerful one, White Dragon destroys the world. With a wave of his sword, a white dragon formed by sword chi pounced out, tearing a large number of vines apart and burning them, which helped Yi Chen win a chance of survival. Performing sword arts through the air. The Stone Emperor admired Yi Chen more and more. As a sword artist, Yi Chen was too amazing. Bang! Suddenly, a 10-meter-thick vine whipped the silver snake sword away. Their minds were connected, and Yi Chen's face paled. The defensive sword art had one disadvantage: it was easy to be affected, and his soul would be shaken. Fortunately, with his soul defense, he could still endure it. Hastily putting away the silver snake sword, Yi Chen gritted his teeth and increased his speed again. With his naked eye, he could already see the edge of the green continent. Success or failure depended on this. Yi Chen, put me down. With this distance, I can use a secret art to increase my speed. The Stone Emperor said. Yi Chen nodded and let go of the Stone Emperor's left hand. Before Yi Chen let go, the Stone Emperor's body was already burning with a bloody light. After Yi Chen let go, the Stone Emperor rode on the bloody light and flew forward. Its speed was actually not slower than Yi Chen's. Obviously, this was a secret art that consumed a lot of energy. With this secret art, the Stone Emperor's speed was comparable to Yi Chen's. Without the burden of the Stone Emperor, Yi Chen's movements became more agile. The feeling of being able to fly freely in the sky once again assaulted him. Ahead, the Scarlet Wind Emperor and the other two had already entered the purple chi flow. The Scarlet Wind Emperor took out the Scarlet Wind ship and started to store energy for the main cannon. Regardless of whether or not it could injure the Emperor-grade Death God Vine, the Scarlet Wind Emperor planned to vent his anger. 1,000 miles. 500 miles. 300 miles. Quickly dodge. The Scarlet Wind Emperor warned Yi Chen and the Stone Emperor. Swoosh. Yi Chen and the Stone Emperor quickly separated and entered the purple chi flow on the left and right. An extremely condensed scarlet light beam flashed between the two of them. Boom! In the next moment, A huge fireball exploded on the Emperor-grade Death God Vine's main vine. Visible to the naked eye, a hole appeared on the main vine. Die! The Scarlet Wind Emperor fired another cannon. Crack! The main vine suddenly broke, and the juice immediately evaporated. However, this completely infuriated the Emperor-grade Death God Vine. A strong vine that was dozens of meters thick charged into the purple chi flow and whipped the Scarlet Wind ship. The Scarlet Wind ship was sent flying. Its energy shield flickered a few times and was instantly extinguished. This vine that was dozens of meters thick could be considered one of the more important vines of the Emperor-grade Death God Vine. Its attack power was terrifying, and it directly broke the Scarlet Wind ship's energy shield. Without slowing down, the Emperor-grade Death God Vine also charged into the purple chi flow. Looking from the back, one could see that this Emperor-grade Death God Vine was a humanoid plant lifeform that was 10,000 meters tall. The main vine extended from its right arm, and it was getting thicker and thicker. It was many times bigger than its body. 7 vines that were dozens of meters thick extended from its left arm, and it was one of the vines that had whipped the Scarlet Wind ship. Crackle, crackle. The purple electric current was not particularly sensitive to Yi Chen and the others. However, as soon as the Emperor-grade Death God Vine charged in, the purple electric current immediately gathered and turned into thick lightning bolts that struck the Emperor-grade Death God Vine. In an instant, hundreds and thousands of lightning bolts struck it, causing green smoke to come out. With a scream, the Emperor-grade Death God Vine hurriedly retreated from the purple chi flow and returned to the green continent. Its body was charred black as if it was burnt. It looked rather pathetic. Haha, good job. On the Scarlet Wind ship, all 5 of them were present. When they saw this scene, they could not help but smile. Chapter 1190. Let's go. This Emperor-level Death God Vine clearly doesn't dare to enter the purple current. We can't kill it. Its life force is too strong. Snow Air Emperor said. Scarlet Wind Emperor nodded. The purple current is very sensitive to life. The stronger the life, the easier it is to be attacked by the purple current. It doesn't dare to enter. Then, Scarlet Wind Emperor piloted Scarlet Wind and flew into the depths of the purple current. Yi Chen, thank you. Inside the hall, Stone Statue Emperor thanked Yi Chen. Yi Chen said, no problem. Since we are a team, we must help each other. If I encounter danger in the future, do your best to save me. Hee, of course. No matter what, I owe you my life. No one didn't value their life. Stone Statue Emperor was no exception. TSK. Fire Sparrow Emperor circled around Yi Chen as if he wanted to find something. What is it? Yi Chen looked at Fire Sparrow Emperor. I didn't expect you to be so loyal. You're qualified to be our friend. Fire Sparrow Emperor patted Yi Chen's shoulder and chuckled. Scarlet Wind Emperor teased, Little Fire Sparrow, not only does Brother Shi owe Yi Chen a life, you also owe him a life. I owe him a life. Why? Fire Sparrow Emperor didn't understand. Snow Air Emperor said, if it wasn't for Yi Chen stopping you, you would have gone to save Brother Shi first. What do you think your chances of survival are? Hearing this, Fire Sparrow Emperor blushed. Alright, I also owe him a life. But what about you guys? Aren't you going to help too? The 4 were life and death friends, and they had experienced many dangers together. If not for Yi Chen, Scarlet Wind Emperor and Snow Emperor would have done their utmost to save Stone Puppet Emperor. They wouldn't have given up on him, and the final result would have been a complete wipeout. At that time, Stone Puppet Emperor knew that the 3 of them wanted to save him, which was why he told them not to be impulsive. Haha, that's right. We all owe Yi Chen a life. Scarlet Wind Emperor laughed. Not bad. The Snow Air Emperor nodded emotionally. Yi Chen laughed bitterly. Is it that serious? I can save him, so I saved him. If I didn't have a 10% chance of success, I might not have saved him. Yi Chen was telling the truth. When he was not confident, he would think about himself first. After all, he still had his family and his woman waiting for him. However, what Yi Chen didn't know was that his honesty made the 4 of them admire him even more. This kind of person was very reassuring, unlike some people who like to show their good side and say things with confidence. Let's go. It's not a good thing to always stay in the purple gas. This place is really strange. I've never seen it before. The scarlet wind went deeper and deeper into the purple gas flow, and the green continent could no longer be sensed. Crackle, crackle, crackle. The deeper they went into the purple gas flow, the more purple electric currents there were. Occasionally, purple electric currents would gather into lightning and strike the scarlet wind, creating circles of ripples. The 5 of them weren't worried about their safety while staying in the scarlet wind. The scarlet wind was an Emperor-class warship after all. Unless the purple lightning's attack power was much stronger than a low-tier monarch or even a mid-tier monarch, it was impossible for it to break through the scarlet wind's energy barrier in one go. Of course, the scarlet wind was constantly being attacked. The scarlet wind expended essence stones very quickly. The 4 shots of the main cannons earlier had already expended 40 million essence stones. Currently, more than 50 million essence stones were not at home. If it wasn't for the fact that he was rich, another ordinary the Archrealm monarch would definitely not be able to hold on. Scanning with his soul spirit, Yi Chen discovered that his soul spirit felt a little numb as if it had been electrocuted. The good thing was that it was just numb. Not only was it not harmful, but it was also beneficial for tempering his soul spirit. It seemed like this purple electric current was more mystical than he had imagined. It was even effective for the soul spirit. There are purple water droplets. Suddenly, Yi Chen's soul spirit detected some purple water droplets that were the size of water droplets. The purple water droplets were crystal clear and looked like liquid purple diamonds. The small ones were the size of sesame seeds, and the big ones were the size of peas. Occasionally, purple electric currents would surge out from the water droplets, and they would interact with the purple gas flow in the surroundings. Haha, there is indeed purple electric spiritual fluid. The scarlet wind the arch laughed loudly and said in pleasant surprise. Purple electric spiritual fluid? You mean these purple water droplets? Yi Chen asked. The Stone Man Emperor explained, purple electric spiritual fluid is one of the specialties of the Violet Secret Realm. It can only be produced in these purple gas flows, but it is not everywhere. Previously, we were in the air above the green continent, and the higher we went, the denser the purple gas flows became. There is a possibility of producing purple electric spiritual fluid, but it is too dangerous. Unless you are an 8th sky sovereign, there is no way to collect it. But here, the purple gas flows are everywhere, and the danger level is far lower than in the air. It is completely possible to collect purple electric spiritual fluid. Oh right, I forgot to tell you about the effect of purple electric spiritual fluid. Purple electric spiritual fluid can temper the spirit body, and also the soul. It is even useful for healing soul injuries. If you can collect a large amount of purple electric spiritual fluid and bathe in it, the effect will be extraordinary. The Snow Air Emperor also said, purple electric spiritual fluid can temper the spirit body of a 7th sky sovereign. Of course, there is no effect at the late 7th sky sovereign. Late 7th sky sovereign? Yi Chen's spirit body was only at the peak of the 6th sky sovereign, far from the late 7th sky sovereign. The higher the spirit body, the harder it was to improve. Some rare refining treasures were no longer useful. This purple electric spiritual fluid came at the right time. This is a rare opportunity. Everyone, go out and collect purple electric spiritual fluid. I have already collected half a barrel of purple electric spiritual fluid. I wonder how much we can collect this time. The Scarlet Wind Emperor opened the cabin door and was the first to fly out. Then, Yi Chen and the others also flew out. In a short while, Yi Chen had collected dozens of drops of purple electric spiritual fluid and stored them in a foot-high jade barrel. Don't look down on this jade barrel. It was made of 10,000-year-old spirit jade and spirit sealing stone. Yi Chen spent several million source stones to buy it. Before coming, Yi Chen was wondering why the Scarlet Wind Emperor and the others wanted him to prepare a jade barrel. Now, he understood. Dozens of drops of purple electric spiritual fluid couldn't fill a small wine cup. It was far from enough. Yi Chen continued deeper. With his soul eye, As long as he didn't leave the 1 billion mile range, he didn't have to worry about getting lost. 100 drops. 300 drops. 500 drops. There was a lot of purple electric spiritual fluid in the purple chi current, almost everywhere. Although each of them was small, there was a lot of it. However, Yi Chen discovered that his Jin Yuan consumption was too severe. His defense was not low at the moment. High-grade Emperor-grade armor, 7th step Immortal protective sword intent, and Heaven-grade top-grade Green Lotus sword arts formed protective Jin Yuan. Although Yi Chen wasn't at the peak among titled monarchs, he was still at the top. However, he was still a 6th layer life and death realm, and his Jin Yuan was not as dense and pure as titled monarchs. After collecting about 500 drops of purple electric spiritual fluid, Yi Chen sat cross-legged in the purple chi current and began using a large amount of source stones to recover his Jin Yuan. Chapter 1191. The higher one's cultivation was, the more primordial stones he needed to recover his Jin Yuan. After consuming 6 to 7 million primordial stones, Yi Chen's Jin Yuan was soon replenished, and he could continue collecting. This collection process took an entire week. On the first day, he collected the most purple lightning spirit liquid, more than 2,300 drops. On the second day, it dropped slightly to 2,000 drops. On the third day, it dropped drastically to less than 1,000 drops. On the fourth day, it was also 1,000 drops. On the fifth day, it dropped by half again, to 500 drops. Fortunately, it increased again on the sixth day, reaching 1,100 drops. On the last day, Yi Chen's luck exploded. Although he only collected 1,000 drops, it included a potato-sized ball of purple lightning spirit liquid, which was more than the previous days. After 7 days, Yi Chen's harvest was not bad. The foot-high bucket contained 1/8 of the purple lightning spirit liquid, which was about 1.5 inches deep. However, there was no purple lightning spirit liquid left in the purple chi flow. Even if there was, it was scattered everywhere, and not worth collecting. After all, Yi Chen had to consume Jin Yuan every second. Just the primordial stones alone had been used up by tens of millions. It was simply a bottomless pit. Haha, how are your results? Do you want to compete? Returning to the Scarlet Wind ship, the 5 placed the buckets on the table in the hall, and the Scarlet Wind Emperor smiled. Let's compete then. The Fire Sparrow Emperor opened the lid of the bucket. Purple lightning flashed inside, and the spirit chi was oppressive. It seemed to be about 2 inches deep, more than half of Yi Chen's. Comparing them, the Fire Sparrow Emperor had the most, followed by the Stone Man Emperor, Scarlet Wind Emperor, and Snow Air Emperor. Yi Chen had the least, mainly because Yi Chen's cultivation was not as deep as theirs, and he needed to recover Jin Yuan frequently. If not for the potato-sized ball of purple lightning spirit liquid on the last day, it would have been even less. This time, the 5 had not only collected the purple lightning spirit liquid, but also found the edge of the purple chi flow. Next, the Scarlet Wind Emperor drove the ship to the edge of the purple chi flow. What came into view was an incomparably majestic mountain peak. It was unknown how tall it was. Above the mountainside, it was completely covered by the purple airflow, layer upon layer. Below the mountainside, there was a white waterfall that was 3,000 feet wide cascading down, making a loud rumbling sound as if the world was being split apart. As for the 2 sides of the mountain peak, there were gusts of purple wind mixed with purple thunderbolts. From the looks of it, it seemed to be very lethal. Look, there's a cave behind the waterfall. Fire Sparrow Emperor pointed at the white waterfall. Everyone, be careful. Without hesitation, the Scarlet Wind chi flow. Boom. The waves exploded as Scarlet Wind passed through the waterfall and arrived outside the cave. The cave was huge. It was nearly 800 meters tall and 3,000 meters wide. It was enough for the Scarlet Wind to fly inside. The cave twisted and turned. Some parts were very wide, while others were very narrow. It was pitch black inside, and there was no other sound other than the sound of Scarlet Wind slowly flying through the air. After flying for an unknown period of time, a ray of light finally appeared in front of them. The light grew brighter and more dazzling. Finally, Scarlet Wind flew out of the cave. It's a grassland. Everyone felt a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. Although there was a purple airflow in the sky above the grassland, the purple airflow was very high. Through the purple airflow, a gentle light shone down. The vast grassland was boundless. When the wind blew, layers of green ripples spread towards the edge. It made people feel relaxed and happy, and they wanted to shout out loud. There are quite a lot of people, Yi Chen said. There are quite a few. What are these people doing? Emperor Shui Kong asked curiously. On the prairie, within sight alone, there were dozens of silhouettes. These people seemed to be fighting over something, and battles broke out from time to time. Dazzling shockwaves radiated in all directions, swirling up grass fragments. However, no one used their battleships to attack each other. The puppet cannons on the battleships could only attack in a straight line, which was not enough to be used in battle. After all, others would not just stand there and let you hit them, and they were not as huge as the Emperor-class Reaper Vines. Let's go and take a look first. The Scarlet Wind battleship quickly flew over. When it passed by a battlefield, the 5 of them finally saw what they were fighting for. In the air, a colorful bead was suspended there, radiating light in all directions. There were 2 groups around it, the Yakshaw race and the Greenman race. The 2 groups were fighting. Although the Yakshaw race and the Greenman race were both members of the Devil Race's alliance, they would only gather together when they were fighting against the human race. Normally, they would fight each other for treasures, just like the internal strife of the human race. If there was a treasure, who would be willing to give it up? Both sides wanted to snatch the 5-colored pearl. Fortunately, the 5-colored pearl was very special and could not be destroyed. Strange. What kind of treasure is this 5-colored pearl? Fire Sparrow Emperor touched his chin. No matter what, let's snatch one first. Scarlet Wind Emperor saw that it was the Yakshaw race and the Green Men race. Scarlet Wind's main cannon began to accumulate energy. A moment later, 2 extremely condensed scarlet light beams and 22 lighter scarlet light beams shot out densely. Boom, boom, boom. Shockwaves spread in all directions. One of the Green Men race's theatres was actually blasted to death. The others could not dodge in time and were all sent flying by the shockwaves. It's mine. Scarlet Wind swept past the 5-colored pearl, and it landed in the Scarlet Wind Emperor's hand. Courting death. Let's join forces and kill them. At this moment, the Yakshaw race and Green Men race's theatres were infuriated. They joined forces to attack Scarlet Wind. However, the Scarlet Wind's defensive barrier was not something they could break. Bastard, this is an Emperor-class warship. One of the Green Men race's theatres gritted his teeth. Haha, let's snatch as many pearls as there are. When the time comes, we will split them evenly. The Scarlet Wind Emperor was extremely arrogant. Among titled monarchs, there were very few who had an Imperial-class battleship. He had obtained the Scarlet Wind battleship by chance in a mystic realm. With the Scarlet Wind battleship, he could completely ignore the attacks of titled monarchs. In terms of defense, the Scarlet Wind battleship was much stronger than a low-grade Imperial-class armor. It could even be compared to a middle-grade Imperial-class armor. Furthermore, an Imperial-class armor consumed its own energy while the Scarlet Wind battleship consumed essence stones. 5 pearls. 10 pearls. 20 pearls. Relying on the Scarlet Wind Emperor, the 5 of them snatched a total of 25 colored pearls. Each of them had 4 pearls, but they had also angered a group of people. A large group of Yakshaw race, Green Men race, and Demons race's theatres chased after them. The 5 of them did not snatch the pearls from the human race or the demon race. Boom, boom, boom. 10s to 100 attacks landed on the Scarlet Wind Emperor. The Scarlet Wind Emperor shook, and it could not increase its speed. In a short while, the Scarlet Wind Emperor was surrounded by more than 100 alien theatres. It's time to show our true strength. At this time, the Scarlet Wind Emperor was already useless. Although the other party could not break the defensive barrier, they could trap the Scarlet Wind Emperor and prevent it from leaving. The cabin door opened, and the 5 of them flew out. They are out. Kill them. Seeing the 5 of them come out, the 100 alien theatres revealed sinister smiles as they attacked. Chapter 1192. The attacks of over 100 titled monarchs were extremely terrifying. Even if a normal titled monarch was wearing a high-level Theach-class armor, they would still be blasted apart. Blazing divine wind, extinguish. The Scarlet Wind Emperor's weapon was actually a fiery red iron fan. When the fan was opened, a giant spirit was carved on it. The giant spirit was surrounded by flames, and it held the fiery red iron fan in its hand. The Scarlet Wind Emperor used his killing move and fanned out violently. Instantly, a three-colored light swept out and destroyed more than 10 attacks. Only 7 or 8 attacks actually landed on the Scarlet Wind Emperor's body. They couldn't break through his defense at all. The Snow Air Emperor was the weakest among the 5, but she was still a 3-star general. She raised both her palms, and cold air spread out in all directions as she pushed out violently. Ice Seal, freeze. Ka. A large amount of energy attacks were frozen. Even if the attacks broke through the ice, their power would be reduced by a lot. The Snow Air Emperor's armor was obviously not ordinary. It was actually a top-notch Theach-class armor. In the Golden Armor Star Treasure Pagoda, if one wanted to buy a top-notch Theach-class armor, one had to have a foreign race's 4-star general badge. The Scarlet Wind Emperor probably killed a foreign race's 4-star general and gave the badge to the Snow Air Emperor. After all, who wouldn't care about the safety of their girlfriend? Apart from Yi Chen, the Stone Man Emperor was the strongest among the 4. His attacks were big and powerful. Metal, earth, and wood profundities fused into one fist and attacked the most concentrated point. Boom! Almost 20 attacks were destroyed by the Stone Man Emperor's fist. Less than 5 attacks landed on the Stone Man Emperor's body. The Stone Man Emperor's forte was actually his defense. Together with the top-notch Theach-class armor, these attacks were like tickles to him. Fiery red tyrant body, Phoenix dances in the 9 heavens. The Fire Sparrow Emperor's entire body emitted a red light, making her look like a goddess of war. Her weapon was a flaming long spear, and with a sweep of the long spear, a boundless chi surged out, transforming into a soaring fire phoenix. With a flap of the fire phoenix's wings, dozens of attacks were annihilated, and the remaining attacks landed on the Fire Sparrow Emperor's body, making tinkling sounds. She didn't even have the qualifications to move. There were also quite a number of attacks heading towards Yi Chen. There were a total of 22 attacks. Although these 22 attacks had different elements and moves and could not be combined together, with so many killing moves being launched at the same time, the pressure they gave off was not just a little bit. Ordinary Theach-ranked monarchs probably would not even have the space to dodge. However, Yi Chen was no ordinary the Arch-King. The Eternal Night Emperor sword was unsheathed, and Yi Chen slashed out. The ferocious black flame wave looked as though it was going to devour the entire heaven and earth. With a fierce pounce, all the attacks were extinguished. But this wasn't the end. The black flame wave's aftershock was even stronger. After extinguishing 22 attacks, the remaining force didn't dissipate. It swept towards the 22 people who had attacked. Within the flame wave, countless black sword light could be faintly seen. Peak 3rd Revolution Sword Art, True Inferno Sword. What? No. These 22 people didn't expect Yi Chen's attack to be so strong. Not only did it extinguish their killing moves, but it still swept over. They couldn't even react in time. In the next instant, the black flame wave engulfed them. With puffing sounds, they turned into ashes one after another. In the end, only 7 people survived. These 7 people's armors weren't low-level, they were all mid-level or high-level Theach-ranked armors. Amazing. The Scarlet Wind Emperor gave Yi Chen a thumbs up. Yi Chen's strength was already at the peak among the 5-star generals. I'm afraid it will be hard to return the favor of saving my life. The Stone Puppet Emperor also didn't expect Yi Chen to be stronger than he had imagined. This sword move was clearly a peak 3rd Revolution sword art, and the sword intent was even more terrifying. The destructive aura was earth-shattering. Kill. After withstanding the first wave of attacks, it was the Scarlet Wind Emperor and the others' turn to counterattack. The Scarlet Wind Emperor's figure flashed like a gentle breeze blowing across the earth, nourishing everything silently. However, his attacks weren't silent. The sky was filled with tricolored light, like a tricolored divine blade, crazily slashing. Each slash would inevitably kill 2 or 3 people. The Snow Air Emperor's ice domain covered a huge area. The wantonly frigid palm attacks were sent out one after another. As long as one touched a little bit, their body would be covered with a layer of frost, and their movements would be restricted. Then, they would be shattered by the palm energy. Both the Stone Puppet Emperor and the Fire Sparrow Emperor were the type to attack openly. The two of them didn't care about their own defense and directly charged into the enemy's group. If the enemy wanted to fight with them, it would be best to kill them directly. If the enemy didn't, they would attack without restraint. They were like 2 killing gods, killing their enemies until ghosts cried and wolves howled. As for Yi Chen's side, there was no suspense at all. After using the true Inferno Sword, Yi Chen immediately used the more domineering and masculine Sun Essence Extreme Transformation. A black sun first appeared in the sky, and it was destroyed by the sword energy, turning into a dazzling black sword light that slashed out. Bang 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 bang! 4 explosions sounded out, and 4 enemies fell. Only 3 wearing high-class monarch armor were left. These 3 were not weak, and they all had the strength of 4-star generals. They weren't cannon fodder. However, they were already terrified. Yi Chen's strength was almost 100 times stronger than theirs, and that terrifying sword intent also made their minds feel very pressured. Run! The 4 of them started to run at the same time, increasing the distance between them to avoid being implicated. Want to run? Yi Chen's eyes seemed to see through time and space. Pu, he stabbed out with his sword, and the wave of nothingness spread out. Then, 2 brilliant fireworks exploded. The last person had already escaped tens of thousands of miles away with this opportunity. Unfortunately, this distance was still not enough. Without looking, Yi Chen stabbed out with his sword again, and the sword energy merged into the void. Bang! The brilliant fireworks bloomed again. 4th Revolution Sword Art Moment of Glory. Without momentary glory, Yi Chen would still be one of the top 5-star generals. If he still had 6 stars, then he would be a 6-star purple gold commander, or even a 7-star purple gold commander. But with his 4th change sword art, momentary glory, Yi Chen's attacking power would be able to compete with low-rank emperor warriors. It would only be the other aspects that he would not be able to compete with. While Yi Chen quickly finished off his opponents, the Scarlet Wind Emperor and the other 3 were not finished yet. Yi Chen didn't go to help, because he didn't need help. His palm continuously sucked in the spoils of war. There were 15 low-grade Emperor-grade armors, 4 mid-grade Emperor-grade armors, and 3 high-grade Emperor-grade armors. The weapons and armors were of average grade, ranging from low-grade Emperor-grade to high-grade Emperor-grade. Apart from that, there were also 22 storage rings. It was unknown whether these 22 people carried the majority of their wealth with them or not. These 5 are too strong. 5 against 100, and they were actually beaten so badly. Fortunately, they are of our human race. Fortunately, we are also of the beast race, on the same side as the human race. But, that sword artist is too strong. He seems to only have a cultivation base of 6th layer life and death realm. The last 2 sword strikes were simply unfathomable, and the 3 died silently. Such a frightening sword art is not something ordinary people can imagine. On the prairie, many titled monarchs of the human race and beast race were watching. They originally planned to come over and help, but now, it seemed like there was no need. Chapter 1193. In just a short while, only 30 to 40 of the more than 100 alien titled monarchs were left. These 30 to 40 alien titled monarchs felt that something was amiss as they frantically tried to escape. What they did not expect was that the surrounding humans and demons had already set up an inescapable trap, not giving them any way out. Total annihilation. In the end, more than 100 monarchs were all dead. And all of this was caused by just 5 people. Although the last 30 to 40 foreign race titled monarchs were mostly killed by the human race and demon race titled monarchs, these people did not dare to take the spoils of war for themselves. They were prepared to hand them over to the Scarlet Wind the Arch and Company. The Scarlet Wind the Arch waved his hand. How can I return something that is already in my hands? Keep it, He didn't care about the ordinary mid-grade monarch rank artifacts. At his level, his wealth was beyond the imagination of normal monarchs. May I ask, what is the use of the 5 color pearls? Snow Air Emperor asked. A human old man walked out and answered, the 5 color pearls are formed by the heaven and earth rules of the prairie. I heard from the first batch of people that no one has been here for a long time. Before they came, there were a lot of 5 color pearls, but each person could only get 5. At the end of the prairie, there is a heaven and earth barrier that cannot be broken by force. One can only enter with 5 color pearls. A 5 color pearl can only enter the heaven and earth barrier for about 2 hours. If you don't have a 5 color pearl, you will be expelled. However, there are fewer and fewer 5 color pearls on the prairie. That's why everyone is fighting for them. And for some reason, more and more people are coming here. There are humans, demons, and even foreign races. I see. These 5 color pearls should be like keys and have a time limit. Stone Man Emperor nodded. Heaven and earth barrier. Releasing his soul power, Yi Chen saw that there was indeed a heaven and earth barrier at the end of the prairie. It was 5-colored and overflowing with light. Not a single 5-color pearl was left. Luckily, each of them had 4, one less than the 5. They should be able to stay inside the heaven and earth barrier for 10 hours. Go, let's go take a look. Scarlet Wind Emperor piloted Scarlet Wind and flew towards the heaven and earth barrier. After flying for a long time, Scarlet Wind finally reached the heaven and earth barrier. Let's see how the defense of the barrier is like. The Scarlet Wind Emperor boldly began to accumulate energy for the main cannon. Not long after, the main cannon was fully charged. Boom! The Scarlet Wind battleship trembled, and an incomparably condensed scarlet red light pillar blasted toward the barrier of heaven and earth. Like a clay ox entering the sea, the scarlet red light beam instantly disappeared into the barrier of heaven and earth. However, this wasn't the end. The next moment, a scarlet red light beam was reflected back and bombarded the Scarlet Wind. The barrier of heaven and earth could actually absorb energy and counterattack. Catcher. Without any suspense, Scarlet Wind's defense shield was torn apart. Fortunately, after the defense shield was torn apart, the Scarlet Light Pillar's power was almost non-existent. Otherwise, Scarlet Wind would have been pierced through. That was close. The Scarlet Wind Emperor wiped his sweat with lingering fear. Looks like I can only rely on the 5-colored pearls. The Snow Air Emperor said. In terms of attack power, the Scarlet Wind battleship's main cannon's attack power was more than 100 times that of the rest. If the main cannon couldn't blast it apart, there was nothing they could do. Perhaps a true 8th-level Heaven Sovereign could enter the barrier without relying on the 5-colored pearls, but they clearly hadn't reached that realm yet. They could only obediently follow the rules. After getting off the Scarlet Wind battleship, the 5 of them each held a 5-colored pearl and flew toward the barrier. Buzz! The moment they approached the barrier, the 5-colored pearls shone brightly, and a 5-colored halo enveloped the 5 of them. With the 5-colored halo, the 5 of them entered the barrier. The barrier was very deep and thick. After 5 minutes, they passed through the barrier and arrived at a new world. What a dense spirit chi! The new world was a mountain range that looked like an immortal realm. The dense spirit chi was extremely moist. Taking a deep breath was like refining hundreds or thousands of supreme-grade spirit stones. Taking a few more breaths was probably comparable to a primordial stone. Looking over, the mountain range was hidden in layers of clouds, and the ground couldn't be seen. They couldn't even see halfway down the mountain. It didn't look like an immortal realm, but it was better than an immortal realm. They've all been plucked. After passing by a few mountain peaks that were shrouded in clouds, the 5 of them couldn't help but shake their heads. Although there were many spirit herbs on the mountain peaks, they were all ordinary spirit herbs. After careful observation, it was obvious that some of the spots with the densest spirit chi weren't plucked at all. Even if they used their lower bodies to guess, they would still be able to guess that someone had already taken them. Every time they passed by a mountain peak, the 5 of them would shake their heads. What a pity! In their hearts, they were guessing what precious spirit herbs and treasures the first batch of people had obtained. This group of bastards, they didn't even leave anything behind. The Scarlet Wind Emperor muttered to himself. After passing by mountain peak after mountain peak, Yi Chen's group finally found some fish that had escaped the net. The Scarlet Wind Emperor obtained 3 stalks of mature heaven aromatic grass. The heaven aromatic grass was a heavenly king-grade spirit herb. After being ignited, it would produce a very mystical fragrance. Smelling this fragrance, one's thoughts would become extremely clear. Many things that couldn't be figured out in the past would suddenly become clear, and it would greatly increase one's comprehension ability. The Snow Air Emperor obtained 2 stalks of Ice Heart Grass. Ice Heart Grass could raise one's spirit, and it was quite beneficial for cultivating soul arts. The Flaming Sparrow Emperor had obtained a Fire Jade Tree sapling. The Fire Jade Tree was a heavenly king stage spirit tree, and once it fully matured, it would bear fire jade fruits, which were extremely useful for cultivating fire attribute energies. Most importantly, it would not harm one's foundation, and using the fire jade fruits to break through to the next stage would allow one to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Stone Emperor and Yi Chen didn't obtain anything useful for themselves. The Stone Emperor obtained a huge gourd, which had its own space inside and could nurture treasures. Unfortunately, although this gourd was precious, it was a heavenly king grade and not an emperor grade. Otherwise, it would be very useful. As for Yi Chen, he obtained 4 stalks of demonic king grass. Although they were useless to him, they were extremely useful to the dream-eating wolf, helping him stabilize his foundation and charge into the next realm. Currently, the dream-eating wolf was at the 3rd layer of life and death realm. 4 stalks of demonic king grass were enough for him to charge into the 4th layer. Finally, the 5 arrived in front of the only mountain that hadn't been looted. The reason why this mountain hadn't been looted was because it was protected by the mountain guarding Great Array. The lingering clouds seemed to have spirituality, sometimes turning into dragons, sometimes into fierce tigers, sometimes into fierce birds, and sometimes into tortoises. This is the 4 symbols Great Array. It's actually protected by the 4 symbols Great Array. The Stone Golem Emperor immediately recognized the formation. The Snow Air Emperor said, with the protection of the 4 symbols Great Array, it's no wonder those people couldn't enter. But, this is actually advantageous to us. As long as we can break through the 4 symbols Great Array, all the treasures on the mountain will belong to us. The 4 symbols Great Array was one of the peak Emperor grade arrays. Normally, only low-level emperors could break through it. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,